Beloved one, before you seek to draw into your life the treasures of heaven and earth, you must first recognize a divine law that governs all receiving. The vessel must be made ready before the blessing can be poured. Too often, the mind chases after prosperity as if it were some shy bird always fleeing from our reach. Yet I tell you, prosperity is not something to hunt in the restless fields of desire. It is something you allow to land upon your hand when your heart has become still, clean, and welcoming. Today I speak to you of something simple yet powerful, the salt in your home. Not the common grains you take for granted, but a substance honored since ancient times as a keeper of purity, a preserver of what is good, a guardian against decay both physical and spiritual. Across civilizations, from the kitchens of humble villagers to the temples of priests, salt has been recognized as a silent, potent force. And it is here, in this humble element, that we can anchor a symbol so charged with intention that it will daily remind you of your covenant with the divine giver of all good. Picture, if you will, a jar of salt on a shelf in your home. Now imagine that this jar, instead of simply holding a common household seasoning, begins to glow in your mind's eye with a golden radiance. This glow is not mere fantasy, it is the light of your own intention, your prayerful breath infused into the salt, transforming it from the ordinary into the sacred. In the language of spirit, salt becomes more than matter. It becomes a mirror, reflecting your inner state back to you and broadcasting your readiness to receive. But here is the truth. Before that jar can serve as a beacon to draw abundance, you must first attend to what fills your inner jar, your consciousness. You cannot fill a vessel with pure water if it still contains sediment from old streams. You cannot preserve the sweet fruit of divine provision if the container is unwashed from past bitterness. In this same way, the mind and heart must be cleansed of subtle negativities, resentments, fears, doubts that cloud the channel between you and the infinite source. This is why I call this moment the sacred summons. It is not merely a suggestion to try some quaint ritual. It is the voice of spirit inviting you to step into a higher harmony with divine law. You are being called to prepare yourself not with restless grasping, but with patient purification. The salt will be your ally, your anchor, your reminder. But first it will require from you a decision, to make yourself the kind of vessel that heaven delights to fill. So pause here, beloved. Feel the gentle seriousness of this call. See that glowing jar in your mind, and let it symbolize the readiness you are cultivating in your soul. For in the moments ahead, we will speak of what to place within it, how to bless it, and how to live in constant attunement with its silent, magnetic presence. But for now, let your heart answer the summons. Yes, Lord, I am ready to be cleansed, ready to be filled, ready to receive. When you hold this readiness, the door to abundance is already beginning to open. And as you will soon see, the salt in your home may become the key you never knew you already had. When we speak of the law of spiritual action, beloved, we enter the realm where thought and matter meet, where invisible intention begins to shape the visible world. Many imagine that material prosperity is born only of labor, strategy, and market forces. But I tell you, the deepest and most enduring abundance springs from the inner workshop of consciousness. Matter is condensed energy, and energy responds to the mold of thought and feeling. Every physical object around you carries a subtle vibration, and when you consciously infuse that object with a noble intention, it becomes a transmitter of that vibration back into your life. This is why the sages of old never separated ritual from daily living. The stirring of a pot, the lighting of a lamp, the arrangement of flowers, or the placement of salt, all were done with a mindfulness that turned the simplest act into a prayer. In Yogananda's teachings, sacred rituals were never hollow gestures. They were designed to impress the subconscious mind with patterns that reflect divine law. You see, the subconscious is like a fertile field. It will grow whatever seed is planted and nurtured there. A ritual, when performed with devotion and clarity, plants seeds of faith, abundance, and gratitude into that field. Over time, these seeds grow into the circumstances and opportunities that mirror your inner alignment. Without such inner sowing, outer efforts can produce only temporary results, for the soil of the mind remains unprepared to sustain what is received. Think of it this way. Tuning a radio does not create the music, it allows you to receive what is already being broadcast. The music of divine prosperity is already playing, eternally, without interruption. But your consciousness must be tuned to its frequency to receive it clearly. The salt jar, when prepared and used as I shall teach you, becomes a physical act of tuning. Each time you see it, touch it, or remember its presence, it subtly realigns your awareness to the truth that abundance flows naturally to the one who is attuned. The law works in both directions. Just as the salt jar can be imbued with the vibration of abundance, it can also absorb and neutralize discordant vibrations, fears, doubts, and resentments that would otherwise cloud your inner receiver. This is why the physical and the spiritual must be married in such acts. If you attempt to attract prosperity purely through thought while your surroundings are cluttered with neglected, unblessed objects, the vibration of your environment will not support your inner work. Conversely, if you perform the outer ritual mechanically without the living current of faith behind it, the jar will remain only salt in a container, beautiful perhaps, but inert in its purpose. So I ask you now to expand your view. See the salt jar not as a superstition or charm, but as an instrument in a great symphony of cause and effect, where your thoughts are the melody and your actions are the harmony. When they work together, the song of your life changes. The physical act of placing and blessing the contents of your jar will engage your body, your senses, and your mind all at once, impressing upon every level of your being that you are in covenant with the source of all good. This is the law of spiritual action, where every outer deed becomes a sacred echo of the inner state you wish to magnify. And here is the joy of it. Once you understand this law, you can apply it to all aspects of your life, not just in matters of wealth. The same principle can draw peace, health, love, and wisdom. For the universe does not differentiate between kinds of abundance. It only responds to the vibratory pattern you are consistently sending. Today we focus on prosperity, but know that you are learning a universal art, one that can tune your entire life to the frequency of the divine song. The salt jar is only the beginning. The transformation is far greater. Before we approach the sacred moment of placing anything into your salt jar, beloved, you must understand that the true container is not glass or ceramic, it is you. The mind and heart are the real vessels into which divine prosperity is poured. If these are clouded with conflicting desires, with shadows of resentment, with the dust of scarcity thinking gathered over years, then even the most sanctified ritual will have only a fleeting effect. Inner obedience is the clearing of this vessel. It is the conscious decision to align every part of yourself with the highest good, so that what you draw is pure, abundant, and blessed. To begin, purify your intention. Ask yourself, with complete honesty, why do I seek this prosperity? What will I do with it once it flows? If the answers revolve solely around the gratification of ego, you will find that the jar's magnetism weakens over time, for divine law sustains only what serves the upliftment of the soul and the benefit of others. But if you see wealth as a river to nourish your life and the lives of those you can bless, then the current will flow with greater constancy, because it is aligned with the very nature of spirit, which is ever giving. Release resentment. Understand that every moment spent in bitterness toward another's success is a silent decree to the universe that you are unworthy of your own blessings. Resentment poisons the salt. So to speak, it introduces a vibration that contradicts the purity of your desire. Let go of envy, not by denying your feelings, but by transmuting them into admiration and gratitude that you have been shown what is possible. When you can rejoice in the prosperity of others as if it were your own, you dissolve one of the strongest barriers to receiving. Abandon scarcity thinking. Many live as though the storehouses of the universe are nearly empty, as if by taking your share, you deprive another of theirs. Beloved, God's abundance is infinite. The salt in your jar will not run out. The flow from the divine source cannot be exhausted. Each grain is a reminder that there is more than enough for all. And by aligning with that truth, you become a channel through which prosperity circulates freely. Once these inner weeds are pulled, plant the seed of prayer for alignment. This is not the grasping prayer that begs for more, but the surrendered prayer that says, "Beloved giver of all, Bring to me only what serves my highest good and the highest good of all. Keep from me what would bind my soul or cloud my sight. Let me be a faithful steward of whatever I receive. Such a prayer opens the gates of abundance in ways you cannot predict, for it allows divine intelligence, not human will, to guide the flow. Think of yourself as a crystal goblet, about to be filled with rare nectar. Would you not rinse it first, polishing away every smudge so that the sweetness within is not tainted? This, beloved, is inner obedience. It is the willingness to pause before the act, to cleanse not only the salt but the self, so that when the moment comes to place the sacred item in your jar, the gesture will be backed by the full force of a pure, receptive, and God-attuned consciousness. Without this step, the jar will hold salt and symbol but no true charge. With it, the jar will become a living altar, and every glance toward it will remind you of the harmony you have established between your heart and the inexhaustible storehouse of the infinite. Now, beloved, we come to the moment your anticipation has been leaning toward, the revelation of what to place within your salt jar, the seed of intention that will rest within the purifying embrace of those crystalline grains and radiate its quiet power throughout your home. I remind you again, the object itself is not magic. It is the consciousness with which you choose it, prepare it, and install it that awakens its potency. Still, the choice is important, for just as a farmer selects the seed that matches the season and soil, so too must you select something whose vibration harmonizes with the prosperity you seek to draw. In the ancient yogic understanding, and in the wisdom of many sacred traditions, certain natural substances carry a resonance that aligns with abundance and blessing. A coin of pure metal, preferably copper or silver, has long been seen as a conductor of the energy of exchange. Silver reflects purity and clarity. Copper carries the vibration of conduction, both in the physical sense and in the spiritual sense of allowing energy to move without obstruction. Placing such a coin, cleansed and blessed, into your jar of salt sets a clear intention. I am ready for the channels of divine provision to flow unhindered through my life. Others may feel drawn to use a small, smooth crystal such as citrine, long regarded in metaphysical circles as the merchant stone, symbolizing joyful prosperity, or a piece of clear quartz, the universal amplifier of intention. These stones, being of the earth, have absorbed the deep patience and abundance of the natural world over countless ages. To place them within the salt is to nestle your desire within a womb of purity, where it is shielded from discordant influence. Whatever you choose, let it be natural, untainted by artificial coatings or residues, and let it be something you can hold in your palm and feel an intuitive connection with. Before it touches the salt, wash it in clean water, perhaps with a pinch of salt already dissolved, as if baptizing it into its new sacred role. As you rinse it, speak inwardly words of gratitude to God, not only for what is to come, but for all that has already been given. Gratitude is the key that turns the lock on heaven's storehouse, and without it, even the purest symbol will remain dormant. When you are ready, pour fresh salt into your chosen jar until it is nearly full, leaving a small space at the top. Gently lower your chosen object into the center, as though placing a heart into a living body. Let it sink naturally into the salt, surrounded and embraced on all sides. In that moment, pause. Feel the stillness. Imagine the salt as the vast reservoir of divine abundance, uncountable grains, each representing a blessing you cannot yet see. Picture the object you have chosen glowing softly, sending a vibration outward into the salt, and from the salt into the air, and from the air into the subtle currents of life that shape your reality. Do not rush this moment, for it is here that intention crystallizes into form. You are not merely dropping something into a jar. You are setting in motion a pattern, a prayer made visible, a covenant sealed between your soul and the source. This object will remain hidden from casual sight, but its influence will be quiet and constant, like the heartbeat that sustains you without needing to be heard. And as we move forward, you will learn how to bless this living symbol so that its current of attraction flows with clarity and strength, not only for days or weeks, but for as long as you choose to keep it as an altar to your covenant with abundance. Now that your chosen symbol rests within the silent purity of the salt, beloved, we must awaken it not in some superficial way, but through the conscious transmission of your own life force, sanctified by the remembrance of God. Without this blessing, the jar remains a potential waiting to be activated. With it, the jar becomes a living current, a quiet but steady beacon, calling forth the conditions, opportunities, and inner shifts that compose true prosperity. Blessing is not a formality. It is the moment in which you lend your own awakened consciousness to matter, impressing it with the vibration of the divine law you wish it to express. Hold the jar with both hands and bring it to the level of your heart. This gesture is not arbitrary. It aligns the physical vessel with your spiritual center, the place where love, intention, and devotion meet. Close your eyes. Let your breath slow and deepen until each inhalation feels like the drawing in of light, and each exhalation feels like the release of all tension, all doubt, all attachment to the outcome. You are emptying yourself so that what flows into the jar is pure. As you breathe, let your mind dwell not on the lack you wish to escape, but on the abundance you already possess, the food you have eaten, the shelter that has held you, the kindnesses you have received, the beauty you have witnessed. One by one, let these images pass before your inner vision, like beads on a mala, and with each one, feel the warmth of gratitude expanding within your chest. When the heart is warm with gratitude, the current of giving and receiving becomes free from obstruction, and the blessing flows without strain. Now, silently or aloud, speak a short, potent affirmation of divine supply, one that carries both the simplicity and the authority of truth. You might say, "Infinite Spirit, source of all that is good, I thank you for the abundance that flows ceaselessly into my life. May this jar be a sign of my trust in you, a magnet for all that serves my highest good, and a blessing to all whose lives touch mine." Speak slowly, letting each word sink into the silence like a seed into rich soil. Between each repetition, pause not to think, but to feel. As you speak, imagine a golden light kindling at the center of the object within the salt, as if a hidden lamp has been lit. See this light growing, filling the salt until each grain glows like a tiny sun, and then flowing outward into your home, surrounding it with a sphere of harmony and provision. Do not strain to visualize, let the image arise naturally, as if the jar itself is showing you the radiance it has received. This is not fantasy. It is the language of energy, and your subconscious understands it perfectly. When you sense that the blessing is complete, when your breath feels smooth, your heart feels still, and the jar seems almost to hum in your hands, place it gently in the spot you have chosen for it. This should be somewhere you pass each day, not hidden away in a dark cupboard, for it will serve as a silent companion to your daily life. Each time your eyes meet it, the memory of this blessing will be renewed, and the law you have set in motion will continue to work without your constant interference. Remember, beloved, you have not given the jar power over you. You have infused it with the power that was always yours in partnership with the divine. It is a witness to your covenant, a reminder of your alignment, and a symbol that the infinite is not distant, but as close as the breath in your body and the salt in your hand. From this point onward, you will not merely keep the jar, you will live with it, in harmony, as part of a continuous dialogue with the source of all abundance. With the jar now blessed and placed in its rightful position, we turn to the rhythm of daily spiritual ritual, for the current of prosperity, like any living current, flows most steadily when tended with constancy. A single act of blessing can open the gate, but daily remembrance keeps it from closing again. Think of this not as labor, but as the tending of a sacred flame. Just as a lamp, once lit, will eventually dim if left unattended, so too, the vibration you have set in motion must be nourished with regular, loving attention. These rituals are not meant to bind you with superstition. They are invitations to weave prosperity consciousness into the fabric of your ordinary days, until it is as natural to you as breathing. At the dawn of each morning, before the world's noise begins to tug at your thoughts, go to the place where the jar rests. Stand before it in quiet stillness, allowing your gaze to rest gently upon it. You need not touch it yet. First, center yourself in breath. Inhale deeply, as though drawing in golden light from above, and exhale fully, releasing any remnants of worry carried over from sleep. Then, with your fingertips, lightly touch the jar and silently affirm, "Divine abundance flows to me and through me, blessing all." Feel the words not as a wish, but as a truth already present, as certain as the sun's rise. This is your morning connection, the setting of your inner compass toward the magnetic north of gratitude and trust. Midday, perhaps before a meal, or during a brief pause in your tasks, allow your eyes to meet the jar once more. You may only glance at it, but in that glance, breathe in a single deep breath of gratitude. Let it be like the nod of recognition you would give to a dear friend passing by in the street, a small, effortless acknowledgement that keeps the bond alive. This midday reminder serves not to ask for more, but to re-anchor your awareness in the flow that is already carrying you. As evening descends, and before you retire for the night, return to the jar once more. This is your sealing ritual for the day. Rest your hands gently on it, close your eyes, and allow your mind to drift back over the hours you have lived. Seek out even the smallest moments of provision, a kind word, a problem resolved, a need met in some unexpected way, and silently offer thanks for each. Imagine the salt within the jar, absorbing this gratitude as if each grain were a tiny reservoir of light. You are storing not only your intention, but also the evidence of answered prayers, so that the jar becomes more and more a vessel of accumulated blessings. If you wish, you may also keep a small journal near the jar where you note these daily recognitions. Over time, you will see patterns emerge, signs that the law is at work, sometimes subtly, sometimes in bursts of undeniable grace. This record is not for pride, but for faith, for in moments of doubt, it will remind you that the current has never ceased. In all of these daily acts, remember, the jar is not the source. It is a symbol, a focusing lens for the divine abundance that already surrounds you. The true power lies in the alignment of your thought, feeling, and action with the ever-giving nature of spirit. By honoring the jar daily, you are training your consciousness to dwell continually in that alignment, until the line between ritual and life disappears, and your very being becomes the salt of the earth, pure, preserving, and rich with the flavor of the infinite. Now that the rhythm of your daily practice is established, beloved, it is time to contemplate the deeper spiritual blueprint of prosperity, what it truly is, beyond the coins in your purse or the figures in your account. In the eyes of the divine, prosperity is not measured merely in possessions or income. It is the radiant health of body and mind, the richness of loving relationships, the freedom to serve without fear of lack, the joy of meaningful work, and the peace that nothing in this world can shake. When I speak to you of attracting endless prosperity, I am speaking of attracting wholeness, the harmonious unfolding of every aspect of your being, so that you live not in fragments, but in fullness. The salt jar you have prepared is a symbol of this wholeness. Salt, in its countless grains, reminds you of the infinite expressions of good that flow from the same source. Just as each grain is distinct yet united in one jar, so each blessing, whether it be health, opportunity, wisdom, or love, is part of the one great abundance that is your birthright as a child of God. To hold the jar is to hold in miniature the entire spiritual economy of the universe, where nothing is wasted, nothing is lacking, and all is held in perfect balance. In yogic philosophy, this balanced prosperity is the natural state of the soul when it is unobstructed by the restlessness of ego. The currents of life, material, emotional, mental, spiritual, are meant to circulate freely, like the sap in a healthy tree. And like a tree, your roots must be deep in the soil of divine truth if your branches are to bear fruit in every season. The jar, resting quietly in your home, is a reminder of these roots. It whispers each day, do not chase the fruit at the expense of the root. Prosperity begins within. Here is the paradox. When you live in this state of inner completeness, you no longer cling to the desire for more, and it is precisely then that more flows to you effortlessly. Why? Because you have ceased to resist. The universe is not withholding, it is responding. The salt jar, blessed and honored, helps to keep your mind anchored in this truth by giving the formless a form, something your senses can touch and see, which in turn strengthens your faith in the unseen law. Consider also that your prosperity is not yours alone. In divine law, nothing is ever hoarded without consequence. What stagnates begins to decay. True abundance is designed to move to nourish you, and then flow outward to nourish others. In this way, you become not a reservoir, but a river. Each time you receive, let some part of that blessing pass through your hands to uplift another. This circulation is what ensures that the river never runs dry. The salt jar, sitting quietly, will become a silent witness to this flow. Each grain within it, a reminder that you are both a recipient and a distributor of God's bounty. Therefore, as you continue in your practice, do not limit your affirmations to material wealth alone. Affirm your abundance in health. My body is strong, vital, and whole. Affirm your abundance in love. My relationships are rooted in kindness, trust, and joy. Affirm your abundance in wisdom. The answers I need come to me at the right time. By expanding the scope of your prosperity consciousness, if you align more fully with the total blueprint the divine has for your life, a blueprint that is not a random sketch, but a masterpiece drawn with the precision of infinite intelligence. When you begin to live in this expanded understanding, you will find that the salt jar becomes more than a prosperity tool. It becomes a spiritual compass, pointing you back again and again to the truth that all good already exists within you and flows through you when you are in harmony with the source. And that harmony, beloved, is the real treasure. Yet, my dear one, as with any sacred practice, there are pitfalls along the path, subtle misuses that can quietly close the very door you have opened. It is not enough to prepare the jar with devotion and to honor it daily. You must also guard your mind and heart from those tendencies that distort the pure current of divine abundance into a restless pursuit of gain. The salt jar is a servant of consciousness, not its master. If you begin to lean upon it as though it were a magic charm that operates independently of your own alignment, then you step away from the truth and into the shadow of superstition. The first pitfall is greed disguised as devotion. When the heart's cry for more becomes insatiable, when the practice is performed only to compel life to deliver ever-increasing possessions without any regard for the higher purpose of wealth, the energy shifts from sacred magnetism to anxious grasping. Divine law cannot be manipulated in this way. It does not reward the ego's hunger, but it responds with perfect precision to the soul's openness to be used as a channel for good. If your mind approaches the jar thinking, "If I do this, I must get exactly what I want," you have already closed yourself off from the greater blessings that might come in an unexpected form. The second pitfall is impatience. I have seen many students plant their seeds in the fertile soil of faith, only to dig them up each day to check for sprouting. The salt jar, like a seed, needs time for the unseen forces to work. Constantly questioning whether it is working is like tugging on a plant's stem to make it grow faster. It only damages what has begun to take root. Trust is the fertile darkness in which the seed of prosperity germinates. Each time you feel the temptation to measure results too soon, remind yourself that the law operates in its own perfect timing. The third pitfall is fixation on the object instead of the source. Remember, the jar is a symbol. It does not generate abundance on its own. It draws its power from the alignment of your thought, feeling, and will with the infinite. To mistake the jar for the source is to confuse the finger pointing to the moon for the moon itself. Let the jar continually remind you to look beyond it, to the divine current that moves through all things, visible and invisible. Finally, beware of neglect. Just as the daily rituals keep the jar charged, neglect drains its potency. If it gathers dust in a forgotten corner, it will begin to mirror that same stagnation in your consciousness. Prosperity is a living vibration, and like a garden, it flourishes under attentive care. If life's demands pull you away for a time, do not feel guilt, but return to the practice with fresh intention, as one returns to a beloved friend after an absence. By steering clear of these pitfalls, you keep the channel open and pure. You remain in the balanced state where the practice serves its rightful role as a steady, sacred reminder of your covenant with divine abundance, never as a substitute for the living relationship between your soul and its source. In this way, the salt jar will never bind you with false beliefs, but will continue to liberate your consciousness into the spacious, generous law of spirit. And when you live in that law, the flow cannot help but be endless. To anchor this teaching in the soil of your heart, let me share with you stories both from the lives of devoted practitioners and from my own observation of how such simple, symbolic acts, aligned with the principles I have given you, have become turning points in the flow of their prosperity. These are not tales to be taken as promises of identical results, for the divine does not deal in mechanical formulas. Rather, they are testimonies of what happens when a soul harmonizes inner faith with outer action in sincerity and constancy. One student, a humble shopkeeper, came to me troubled. His business was steady but never seemed to grow, and despite his honest work, he often felt as though some unseen heaviness weighed upon his affairs. I guided him through the preparation of the salt jar, instructing him to use a single silver coin, polished, cleansed, and blessed, not as a magnet for customers alone, but as a beacon for right opportunities and the courage to act on them. Within weeks, he noticed subtle shifts: a new supplier offering better terms, customers referring friends without being asked, and his own mind waking each morning with fresh ideas. The increase was not just in money, it was in his sense of freedom from the tight grip of worry. I realized, he told me, that the jar was teaching me to see abundance everywhere, not just in the till. Another devotee, a woman living in a small rural village, chose a smooth citrine stone for her jar. She had no fixed income, relying on seasonal work and the generosity of neighbors. Her daily practice with the jar was unwavering: morning affirmation, midday gratitude, evening reflection. Over time, her neighbors began to bring her small gifts, vegetables from their gardens, warm clothes, offers of help with repairs. She began to trade her own skills: sewing, mending, and tending to animals in a quiet network of mutual provision. The jar, she said, did not drop gold from the sky. It opened my eyes to the wealth already in my life and drew to me the people and moments that made it grow. I recall also a seeker in the city who prepared his jar with a piece of clear quartz. He worked in a creative field, plagued by inconsistent income and the fear of not being able to sustain himself. For him, the jar became a symbol of focus. Every time I looked at it, he said, I felt a calm certainty that I was supported. That certainty began to color his work with confidence, attracting clients who valued his vision and were willing to pay for it. What had once been a fragile trickle of projects became a steady stream, and with it came a renewed joy in his craft. These stories are not about the salt jar as an isolated cause, but about the transformation of consciousness it inspired. The jar was a mirror reflecting the truth that abundance flows most freely through a mind that is clear, a heart that is grateful, and hands that are ready to serve. The law at work in each case was the same: thought imbued with faith, anchored in action, maintained in harmony with divine purpose. So, as you keep your own jar, remember these lives touched by its silent ministry. Let them be reminders that prosperity is not a single event, but a living relationship between your soul and the infinite. And when you see blessings unfold, whether in the form of money, opportunities, kindness, or peace, know that you are participating in the same timeless current that has carried every true seeker who has dared to combine the invisible prayer with the visible act. Now, beloved, we arrive at the sealing of this covenant, the final affirmative decree, spoken not as a request, but as the soul's declaration of its eternal partnership with the infinite source. This moment is not merely a conclusion to the ritual, it is the point at which your entire being aligns, in thought, feeling, and will, with the law of divine abundance. It is here that the salt jar, the object within it, and the currents of your own consciousness merge into a single vibration that cannot help but attract that which fulfills your highest good. Stand before your jar as if you were standing before the altar of the universe itself. Let your body be upright yet relaxed, your feet grounded in the earth, your crown lifted toward the heavens. Close your eyes and take 3 slow, deep breaths, each one deeper than the last. With every inhale, imagine drawing into yourself the golden light of infinite provision. With every exhale, release the last traces of doubt, fear, and grasping. You are preparing yourself to speak words that will echo not only in your own heart, but in the subtle realms where causes are set into motion. When you feel that stillness descend, the stillness that is not mere quiet, but the poised readiness of the soul, place your hands gently on the jar and speak the decree: Infinite Spirit, source of all supply. I stand in the flow of your abundance. All that I need, and more, arrives to me in perfect time, in perfect ways, for the highest good of all. I am a channel of your provision, and as I receive, so do I give. My life is a witness to your endless generosity. It is done. It is done. It is done. Do not rush these words. Let each sentence sink into the salt, into the object, into the very air around you, as if you were engraving them into the fabric of reality. Between each repetition of "it is done," pause to feel the truth of it, to let it become more than sound. Let it become substance. This is not a plea to a distant God. It is the recognition of your oneness with the source that has never ceased to sustain you. As you speak, you may find that a warmth begins to flow from your heart through your hands into the jar. This is the current of your life force, now carrying the imprint of your faith. See it filling the salt like sunlight pouring into crystal. See it radiating outward into your home, your work, your relationships, touching all that concerns you with the subtle perfume of divine order and increase. You have now, in this moment, claimed your place in the unbroken circle of giving and receiving that is the true economy of spirit. When the decree is spoken and your heart feels that sweet certainty, which needs no further assurance, offer a final silent bow of gratitude, not only for the blessings that are already on their way, but for the privilege of being a conscious participant in the law that governs all creation. Know that from this moment forward, you walk in a covenant of abundance, not as one who begs for favor, but as one who shares in the limitless inheritance of the divine. Carry this consciousness into your days. Let the salt jar remain where it can meet your eyes often, a constant, quiet reminder that you have set in motion a law that never fails when honored. And when you see the fruits, whether they arrive as unexpected income, restored health, harmonious relationships, or a deepened peace, remember to send a portion of that blessing outward, for the circle is only complete when the river flows on. May the salt in your home be the salt of the earth, pure in its purpose, preserving in its strength, and rich with the flavor of God's endless provision. And may your life, beloved, overflow in all the ways that reveal the infinite's love for you. Even I, after years of meditation and God realization, sometimes forgot this simple truth when money troubles came. During the ashram's hardest days, when we could barely afford rice, I rediscovered an ancient practice my guru Swami Sri Yukteswar had whispered to me. It seemed too simple, almost childish, but desperate times call for faith in divine simplicity. What happened next proved that God's abundance laws work in the most practical ways you can imagine. My dear friend, by the time we finish our conversation today, you will understand something that banks will never teach you, something that financial advisors cannot give you, and something that the wealthiest souls throughout history have always known but rarely spoken about. You are living in constant financial stress, aren't you? Working harder but never feeling truly abundant. You have tried every strategy, every investment, every money-making scheme, yet true prosperity feels like trying to catch water with your bare hands. I see you there, perhaps sitting in your car during lunch break, wondering how you will pay next month's rent. Or maybe you are in your kitchen late at night, calculator in hand, trying to make numbers work that simply refuse to cooperate. Perhaps you lie awake at 3 in the morning, mind racing with money worries while your family sleeps peacefully beside you, unaware of the weight you carry alone. I have been there with thousands of souls just like you, holding their hands through the dark night of financial despair. I understand this struggle because I have guided countless hearts from every walk of life through this same darkness. As one who left worldly riches to discover real abundance, I learned that prosperity is first a state of consciousness, not a state of your bank account. Through decades of teaching, through watching miracles unfold in the most desperate circumstances, I discovered the practical bridge between spiritual truth and material manifestation. This is not mere positive thinking, my friend. This is not some new age fantasy or wishful dreaming. This is applied spirituality that the ancient sages have used for thousands of years. While others teach you to chase money like a dog chasing its own tail, spinning in circles of endless effort with little result, I will teach you to become a magnet for divine supply. While others focus on external techniques that come and go like passing storms, changing with every market trend and economic shift, we will work with the eternal laws of consciousness that never fail those who truly understand them. These laws worked for the mystics of India 5,000 years ago. They worked during the Great Depression. They worked during every war and recession and financial crisis in human history. And they will work for you right now in whatever circumstances you face. By the end of our time together, you will carry more than paper money in your wallet. You will carry the consciousness that draws abundance from the invisible realm into visible form. As naturally as a flower draws sunlight from the sky or roots draw nourishment from the soil. You will understand why some people seem to attract good fortune effortlessly, while others struggle constantly despite their best efforts. You will know the secret that turns lack into abundance, fear into faith, and poverty consciousness into prosperity consciousness. Let me tell you about a man I once knew, a millionaire who thought he understood wealth. His name was Marcus, and he owned factories that employed hundreds of workers, vast stretches of farmland that fed entire communities, stocks and bonds that stretched across 3 states. His wallet was thick with $100 bills, his safe filled with gold coins and precious gems. When he walked through town, people stepped aside with respect, whispering about his business acumen and financial genius. But one dark October morning, as these things happen in the mysterious play of divine justice, everything began to unravel. The stock market crash of that era took his investments like a hurricane takes leaves from trees. Fire destroyed his largest factory, and insurance companies found excuses not to pay. Lawsuits from business partners consumed what little remained, bleeding his accounts dry with legal fees and settlements. Within 6 months, this man who had commanded respect and wielded influence found himself standing in bankruptcy court, signing papers that gave away everything he had worked 30 years to build. He came to me broken, sitting in my garden with tears streaming down his weathered face, his expensive suit now wrinkled and worn. "Paramahansa," he whispered, his voice cracking like autumn leaves. "I have nothing left. Even my last dollar is gone. My wife looks at me with pity. My children avoid me. I built an empire and watched it crumble like sandcastles before the tide. I am a failure, a fool who thought he was wise." I looked at this broken man with all the compassion my heart could hold, and handed him a simple piece of paper torn from my notebook. "Write these words," I said, "and carry them where your money used to be." He looked at me as if I had lost my mind, as if grief had finally driven the old guru over the edge into madness. "Paramahansa," he said with barely concealed frustration, "I need real help. Practical solutions, not mystical nonsense. I need a business loan, or a job opportunity, or at least some useful advice about rebuilding my fortune. What good will a piece of paper do me now?" But desperation has a way of opening closed minds to possibilities that pride and certainty keep locked away. After arguing with me for 20 minutes, after exhausting every objection his logical mind could produce, he finally surrendered to the simple exercise. He took my pen with hands that trembled slightly and wrote the words I gave him on that scrap of paper. Then he folded it carefully and placed it in his empty wallet, more to humor a crazy old monk than from any real faith in the process. Something extraordinary began to happen, slowly at first, like dawn breaking after the longest night. Within 3 days, he received a call from an old friend he had not spoken to in years, someone who needed help with a small business deal. The compensation was modest, barely enough to buy groceries, but it was something flowing in instead of everything flowing out. The next week, walking down a street he had never traveled before, taking a different route home to avoid passing his old office building, he saw a storefront for lease at a price he could barely afford with his friend's payment. Something inside him, some voice deeper than logic and more persistent than fear, said yes before his practical mind could list all the reasons why it was impossible. He rented that tiny shop with his last few dollars and began selling simple household items to neighborhood customers. No grand business plan, no elaborate strategy, just honest work and genuine service to the people who walked through his door. That tiny shop became the foundation of an empire that eventually exceeded his original wealth many times over. But here is the true miracle, my friend, the part that reveals the deeper mystery at work. 20 years later, when his new company employed thousands and his name once again commanded respect in business circles, that same worn piece of paper still lived in his wallet, now alongside many bills of every denomination. The ink had faded, the edges had worn soft, but he carried it like a sacred relic. He told me years later that he never again forgot where his prosperity really came from. Not from his intelligence, though he was intelligent, not from his hard work, though he worked very hard, not from his connections or his strategies or his market timing, Though all of these played their part, his true prosperity came from a shift in consciousness, from a recognition of abundance that existed before any money appeared, from a claiming of his inheritance as a child of infinite supply. But this story reveals only the beginning of a deeper truth that most people miss completely. Let me share with you what happened to a dear soul named Ruth, a widow during the Great Depression when unemployment reached 25% and soup lines stretched around city blocks. She had 3 young children and no husband, living in a 2-room shack with holes in the roof that let in rain during storms and snow during winter. Every morning she would count her few coins, laying them out on the kitchen table like a general surveying troops before a hopeless battle, wondering how to buy enough bread and milk to keep her little ones alive another day. The neighbors called her blessed, though none of them could explain why. Her children never seemed to go hungry, even when other families with more money struggled to put food on their tables. They would see her give vegetables from her tiny garden to families that appeared more prosperous than her own. They watched her invite strangers to share meals that seemed too small for her own family, yet somehow everyone left satisfied. Some whispered that she must have hidden money somewhere, perhaps an inheritance or insurance policy she kept secret. Others wondered if she was receiving charity from the church, though the pastor confirmed she gave more than she received. One spring afternoon, I visited her humble home after hearing stories of her mysterious abundance from several people in the community. The house was tiny but spotlessly clean, filled with wildflowers she had gathered and arranged in mason jars. Her children were playing in the yard, their clothes mended but neat, their faces bright with the kind of joy that comes from feeling completely secure in a parent's love. When I asked her about the stories people told, about how she seemed to have plenty when others had so little, she smiled with the gentle radiance of a soul who knows a beautiful secret. She invited me to sit at her simple wooden table and poured tea from a pot that had seen better days. Then she reached into her worn purse and pulled out a folded paper, so old it was falling apart at the creases, held together more by faith than by the few remaining fibers. She had been carrying these words for 15 years, she told me, ever since the day her husband died in a factory accident, leaving her alone with 3 babies and no income. Every morning before dawn, while her children slept in the bed they all shared, she would sit in her rocking chair by the window, hold this paper to her heart, and speak to God as if he were sitting right beside her in the early morning darkness. She would thank him for the abundance that was coming, as if it had already arrived at her doorstep. She would praise him for his faithfulness, as if she had never known a day of want. She would claim his promises as if they were coins already jingling in her purse. And somehow, miracles happened every single day. A neighbor would appear at her door with extra vegetables from their garden, claiming they had planted too much and hated to see good food go to waste. Someone would offer her work washing clothes or cleaning houses, always on the days when her last coins were spent. Her children would come home from school with stories of finding nickels and dimes on their walk, just enough to buy the milk they needed for supper. This dear soul understood something that all the economics books miss completely, something that Harvard Business School will never teach in their courses on wealth creation. She lived from abundance instead of toward abundance. Do you see the difference, my friend? Do you understand the revolutionary power of this simple shift in consciousness? Most people are always reaching for prosperity like it exists somewhere in the future, somewhere outside themselves, something they must achieve or earn or attract through struggle and effort. But Ruth claimed abundance as her present reality, as her birthright as a beloved daughter of the infinite God who owns cattle on 1,000 hills. She did not wait until she had money to feel abundant. She felt abundant and therefore money came. She did not wait until circumstances improved to express gratitude. She expressed gratitude and therefore circumstances improved. She did not wait until problems solved themselves to trust in divine provision. She trusted in divine provision and therefore problems solved themselves. This is the secret that separates those who struggle from those who flow, those who strain from those who receive, those who worry from those who rest in perfect peace, even in the midst of apparent lack. Abundance is not something you create through effort. Abundance is something you recognize, claim, and receive through alignment with the truth of your divine nature. Let me tell you about my own beloved guru, Sri Yukteswar, who rarely carried any money at all in his simple cloth pouch, yet never lacked for anything he needed. I spent countless hours walking beside this illumined master through the streets and marketplaces of Bengal, watching in amazement as abundance flowed to him like iron filings to a magnet. He would approach a fruit vendor's stall, his pockets completely empty, and select the ripest mangoes with the casual confidence of a wealthy man choosing from his own orchard. The vendor would wrap the fruit carefully and hand it to my guru with a smile that seemed to come from his very soul. "These are a gift," he would say, "honoring us with your presence." This happened everywhere we went. Shopkeepers offered their finest goods without payment. Restaurant owners insisted we accept their best meals as offerings. Even wealthy merchants would press coins into my master's hands, claiming it was their privilege to support such a holy man. When I marveled at these daily miracles and asked Sri Yukteswar to explain this mysterious magnetism, he laughed in that gentle way of his that always seemed to contain infinite wisdom and infinite love. "Yogananda," he said, placing his hand on my shoulder as we watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and orange, "when you truly know you are one with the source of all supply, supply recognizes itself in you and flows toward you as naturally as water flows downhill." He taught me that carrying physical reminders of spiritual truth helps train the mind until the truth becomes as natural as breathing, as automatic as the beating of your heart. "The paper in your pocket is not magic," he said, "but it points your consciousness toward the magic that is already within you, toward the treasure that is already yours, toward the abundance that is already seeking expression through your life." My guru understood that most people live in a trance of limitation, hypnotized by appearances, mesmerized by the illusion of separation from their source. They see only what their physical eyes show them and forget the greater reality that spiritual eyes can perceive. They count only the money in their wallets and ignore the infinite wealth that surrounds them like air surrounds their bodies. The physical reminder serves as an alarm clock, waking them from the dream of lack into the reality of abundance. Years later, during our own ashram's darkest financial hour, I rediscovered the power of this simple practice in the most dramatic way possible. We owed creditors thousands of dollars that we simply did not have. The bills arrived daily like storm clouds, gathering on the horizon. The phone rang constantly with collection agencies demanding payment for supplies and services we had received in faith, believing that divine provision would arrive before the bills came due. Some students had left our spiritual community, discouraged by what appeared to be financial instability, taking their monthly donations with them just when we needed support most desperately. Others whispered among themselves, wondering if their guru truly understood practical matters, questioning whether a life dedicated to meditation and prayer could provide for material needs in the real world of rent and utilities and groceries. I sat in my small office one evening after everyone else had gone to bed, feeling the crushing weight of responsibility for all the souls depending on our spiritual community for guidance and shelter. The account books lay open before me, telling a story of numbers that simply would not add up to solvency. For the first time since establishing the ashram, I felt the cold grip of genuine fear wrapping around my heart like winter fog rolling in from the ocean. In that moment of deepest despair, when human effort seemed utterly inadequate and human wisdom completely exhausted, I remembered my guru's teachings about divine supply. I could almost hear his voice whispering across the years, reminding me that God's resources are never limited by human circumstances, that infinite abundance is always available to those who know how to receive it. I took a piece of paper from my desk drawer and began to write words that came not from my worried mind but from the deepest place of knowing within my soul, from that eternal center where fear cannot enter and doubt cannot survive. I wrote slowly, feeling the truth of each word as it flowed through my pen onto the page. These were not desperate pleas or wishful hopes, but declarations of faith based on the unshakable foundation of divine law. When I had finished writing, I folded the paper carefully and placed it in my wallet next to the few bills that remained from our emergency fund. Then I began to treat that simple piece of paper as if it were worth more than all the money in the world, because in truth, it was. It represented a connection to infinite supply that no economic crisis could touch, no creditor could claim, no circumstance could steal away. Every morning I would hold that paper during my meditation period, feeling waves of gratitude washing through my consciousness for abundance that seemed invisible to physical eyes, but was more real than anything those eyes could see. I would thank the Divine Mother for provision that was already on its way, for solutions that were already being arranged, for support that was already being mobilized from sources I could not yet imagine. Something remarkable began to shift in the energy of our entire community. Students who had been anxious about money started speaking about opportunities and possibilities. The staff worked with renewed enthusiasm, as if they sensed that our financial crisis was temporary and our spiritual mission was eternal. Even visitors commented that the ashram felt filled with hope and positive expectation despite what they knew about our challenging circumstances. Within a month, donations began arriving from completely unexpected sources, like streams converging into a mighty river. A wealthy woman I had never met sent a substantial check along with a letter explaining that she had been reading my writings and felt guided to support our work. A former student wrote from New York, enclosing money he said he owed us for teachings received years earlier, though we had no record of any debt and had never requested payment. A businessman approached us about using our facilities for corporate retreats, offering fees that would more than cover our monthly expenses. Another organization invited me to give a series of lectures, providing honorariums that seemed incredibly generous. Book sales increased dramatically after a magazine article about our teachings appeared in a national publication, bringing royalty checks that exceeded our wildest dreams. The ashram not only survived that crisis, but began to flourish in ways we had never imagined possible. Within 6 months, we had eliminated all debt, established a reserve fund for future emergencies, and expanded our programs to serve more seekers than ever before. But the greatest miracle was not the money that came, wonderful as that was. The greatest miracle was the transformation in consciousness that occurred, the deepening of faith that resulted, the absolute knowing that divine supply is always available to those who align themselves with abundance consciousness. These stories point to eternal principles that govern all abundance, my dear friend, laws that operate as reliably as gravity or magnetism or any other natural force. You must understand that prosperity begins in awareness, not in action. Most people have this backwards. They think if they work hard enough, save enough money, invest smart enough, network with the right people, abundance will eventually come knocking on their door like a long-awaited visitor. But divine supply operates by consciousness laws, not economic laws. It flows according to spiritual principles, not market principles. Think of it this way, and listen carefully, because this understanding will change everything about how you approach money and abundance. A radio must be tuned to the right frequency to receive the music that is always broadcasting through the air around us. The music does not create itself when you turn on the radio and adjust the dial. It was always there, filling the atmosphere, waiting to be received by any instrument capable of matching its vibration. Abundance is exactly like that invisible music, always broadcasting from the infinite source, always available, always seeking expression through channels that are properly tuned to receive it. Your consciousness is the radio, your thoughts and feelings are the tuning mechanism, and gratitude is the frequency that connects you most directly to the abundance station that never stops transmitting its limitless supply. When you complain about lack, when you worry about bills, when you focus your attention on what you do not have rather than appreciating what you do have, you tune your consciousness to the scarcity station. And more scarcity is exactly what gets broadcast into your experience. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because you are receiving exactly what you are tuned in to receive. But when you feel genuinely grateful for what you already possess, even if it seems small by comparison to what others have or what you think you need, you tune your inner receiver to the abundance frequency. You send a clear signal to the universe that says, I recognize prosperity when I see it, I appreciate blessing when I receive it, I am ready for more good things to flow into my life. This is why the paper you will carry in your wallet is not a magic charm or superstitious talisman, but a physical anchor for your consciousness, a tangible reminder to keep your inner radio tuned to abundance rather than lack. Every time you see it among your money, every time your fingers touch it while reaching for your credit cards, every time you open your wallet to make a purchase, it interrupts any negative mental patterns that may be running in the background of your mind and redirects your attention back to spiritual truth. You train your mind to expect good things instead of fearing bad things. You practice claiming your inheritance as a beloved child of the infinite God who owns everything in creation, whose treasury never runs empty, whose generosity never reaches its limit. You remind yourself that you are not a beggar hoping for scraps from a stingy universe, but an heir to unlimited abundance who has temporarily forgotten the vastness of your true estate. But understanding this principle intellectually is only the beginning of transformation. You must learn to embody it, to live from it, to make it as natural as breathing air or drinking water. This is where most people fail in their attempts to create prosperity, my friend. They understand the concept in their heads. They nod their agreement with the teaching. They may even feel inspired and hopeful for a few days or weeks. But they never transfer the knowledge from their thinking mind to their feeling heart. Never make it a living reality in their daily experience. The secret lies in what the ancient masters called spiritual magnetism, the ability to attract desired experiences through the power of aligned consciousness. Everything in creation, from the smallest atom to the largest galaxy, is energy vibrating at different frequencies. Your thoughts create one kind of vibration, your emotions create another kind, and together they form an energetic field around you that either attracts or repels the experiences you encounter. When you consistently carry thoughts of worry, fear, lack, and scarcity, when you feel anxious about money, resentful about your circumstances, or hopeless about your future, you create a magnetic field that draws more experiences to validate those feelings. You become a magnet for financial problems, for missed opportunities, for circumstances that give you even more reasons to worry and fear and feel lacking. But when you consistently hold thoughts and feelings of gratitude, abundance, trust, and positive expectation, when you feel blessed by what you have, confident about divine provision, and excited about good things coming your way, you create an entirely different kind of magnetic field. You become a magnet for experiences that match those higher vibrations, for opportunities that confirm your faith, for circumstances that validate your trust in divine supply. This is not wishful thinking or naive optimism, my dear friend. This is physics applied to the realm of consciousness, natural law operating in the mental and emotional dimensions of existence. Like attracts like in the invisible world of thought and feeling, just as surely as positive attracts negative in the visible world of electrical charges. This is why carrying a physical reminder of abundance consciousness is so powerfully effective. Every time your fingers touch that paper in your wallet, every time your eyes see those sacred words written in your own handwriting, it interrupts whatever mental programming may be running and redirects your consciousness back to truth. It becomes like a tuning fork that keeps bringing you back to the abundance frequency throughout your day. The words you write on that paper must come from your deepest knowing, not from your surface hopes or desperate wishes. They must be affirmations rooted in soul truth, declarations based on spiritual reality, not positive thinking divorced from divine principle. There is a vast difference between saying, "I hope abundance comes to me someday if I am lucky or worthy enough," and declaring with absolute conviction, "I am one with the source of all supply right now in this very moment." The first statement comes from separation consciousness, from the belief that you are disconnected from your source and must somehow earn or deserve or attract what you need from outside yourself. The second statement comes from unity consciousness, from the recognition that you and your source are one, that divine abundance is not something you must obtain but something you must simply allow to express itself through your life. You see, God is not separate from you, sitting somewhere in a distant heaven, withholding abundance until you prove yourself worthy through sufficient effort or moral perfection. God is the very life force animating your being right now, the intelligence beating your heart, the power growing your hair, the wisdom coordinating the billions of cellular activities that keep your body functioning without any conscious effort from you. The same infinite intelligence that manages the orbit of planets and the migration of birds and the changing of seasons without strain or effort is the same intelligence that can provide for all your material needs without struggle or stress. But you must align your personal will with divine will, your small self-interested desires with the larger pattern of good that wants to express itself through your life. This alignment happens through the practice of living from abundance instead of toward abundance, through acting as if prosperity is your natural state rather than something you hope to achieve someday in the future. Instead of saying, "When I have more money, I will be generous with others," you practice generosity with whatever you have right now, even if it seems pitifully small by worldly standards. Instead of saying, "When I feel financially secure, I will trust in divine provision," you practice trust right in the middle of uncertainty and apparent lack, right when trusting seems most difficult and least logical. Instead of saying, "When my circumstances improve, I will feel grateful for my blessings," you practice gratitude for gifts that are invisible to physical eyes but clearly visible to spiritual vision. Acting as if abundance is your natural state is not pretending or lying to yourself or engaging in fantasy that ignores reality. It is acting as truth, because abundance is your natural state as a child of infinite God. Lack and limitation are the illusions that seem real only when you identify yourself as separate from your source. Poverty consciousness is the lie that appears convincing only when you forget your true identity as an expression of divine abundance. When you act from your divine nature instead of your human fears, when you think and speak and behave as the abundant being you truly are rather than the limited person you sometimes appear to be, You invite your divine nature to express itself through your human experience. You create space for miracles to occur, opportunities to appear, and provision to flow in ways that confound logical understanding. This is why giving from your spiritual abundance, even during periods of material lack, is so transformative and so necessary. When you share whatever you have with a heart full of gratitude rather than resentment, when you offer help to others even when you feel like you need help yourself, when you contribute to worthy causes even when your bank account suggests you cannot afford to give, you prove to yourself and to the universe that you understand the true source of your supply. You demonstrate through your actions that you know abundance comes through you as a channel, not to you as a container trying to hoard what little you think you possess. You become a living expression of the spiritual law that states giving and receiving are one continuous flow, like breathing out and breathing in, like the tide going out and coming back in, like the sun giving light and the earth receiving warmth. But I must warn you, my dear friend, and prepare you for what many consider the most challenging aspect of working with consciousness laws. Maintaining this abundance awareness requires tremendous faith and patience during what appears to be delay between cause and effect, between the time you plant seeds of new consciousness and the time you harvest crops of changed circumstances. In the physical world, when you plant a seed in fertile soil, you do not expect to see fruit the very next day. You understand that there is an invisible process of germination happening beneath the surface, that roots must develop before shoots can appear, that shoots must strengthen before flowers can bloom, that flowers must mature before fruit can form. You water the seed faithfully, you tend the soil carefully, you trust the natural process of growth even when nothing seems to be happening above ground for weeks or months. The same patience and unwavering faith are required when working with consciousness laws and abundance principles. You may carry your prosperity reminder faithfully for days or weeks without seeing dramatic changes in your outer circumstances. Your bank account may not immediately reflect your inner shift in awareness. Bills may continue arriving before money arrives to pay them. Opportunities may not appear as quickly as you hope or in the exact form you expect. This is precisely when most people give up on the practice, when they decide the principles do not work, when they conclude they were foolish to believe that consciousness could influence circumstances. They abandon their abundance affirmations and return to worry and fear. They throw away their prosperity reminders and go back to focusing on lack and limitation. They surrender their divine birthright and settle for human struggle. But this apparent delay is actually when the practice is working most powerfully, during the invisible germination period when new patterns of consciousness are taking root in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. Like seeds planted in rich earth, your abundance affirmations are developing the strong root system that will eventually produce a harvest of material prosperity that exceeds your wildest dreams. The spiritual masters teach that there is always a time lag between shifts in consciousness and shifts in circumstances, just as there is always a delay between turning a ship's wheel and seeing the massive vessel change direction. The larger the ship, the longer the delay before the turn becomes visible. Your life circumstances are like a very large ship that has been sailing in one direction for many years, perhaps for decades. Be patient and persistent with the turning process. Continue to hold your course toward abundance consciousness even when external evidence suggests nothing is changing. Keep affirming prosperity even when bills outnumber paychecks. Maintain your gratitude practice even when you cannot see what you have to be grateful for. Trust in divine timing even when human timing seems to be running out. Now you are ready for the practical application that will transform your relationship with money and abundance forever, that will shift you from scarcity thinking to prosperity consciousness, that will turn you from a person who struggles with financial lack into someone who flows with divine supply. Listen carefully to these instructions and follow them exactly as I give them to you. Take a piece of paper, any paper will do, but choose something that feels special to you, perhaps stationery that you save for important letters or a page from a beautiful journal. Size does not matter, but quality of intention matters greatly. This paper will become a sacred object that connects you to abundance consciousness every single day, so treat it with the respect you would give to any precious thing. Write these words exactly as I give them to you, using your own handwriting, forming each letter with care and attention. I am one with the source of all supply. Divine abundance flows through me now as naturally as breath flows through my lungs. I gratefully receive all good that is mine by divine right. These are not just pretty words or hopeful sentiments, my friend. These are statements of spiritual fact, declarations of divine law, affirmations of your true nature as an expression of infinite abundance. As you write each word, feel its truth resonating in the deepest chambers of your heart. Let I am one with the source of all supply remind you that you are not separate from God, not disconnected from infinite supply, not dependent on human conditions for your well-being. The same power that created galaxies and spins planets is the power that animates your life right now. Let divine abundance flows through me now, as naturally as breath flows through my lungs. Help you understand that prosperity is not something you must struggle to create, but something you must simply allow to express itself through your consciousness and your life. Just as your body breathes automatically without effort or strain, abundance can flow through your experience effortlessly when you remove the barriers of fear and doubt. Let I gratefully receive all good that is mine by divine right. Establish you in the consciousness of receiving rather than achieving, of claiming rather than earning, of accepting your inheritance rather than trying to deserve it through human effort. You are not begging for favors from a reluctant universe. You are claiming what already belongs to you as a beloved child of infinite abundance. Write these words with your own hand rather than printing them on a computer, because there is power in the physical act of forming letters, in the connection between your heart and your hand and the paper. This is not a casual exercise, my friend. You are creating a sacred talisman that will anchor your consciousness in abundance truth every single day. When you have finished writing, take a moment to appreciate the beauty of what you have created, the significance of what you have declared, the power of what you now carry. Fold the paper carefully, treating it as you would treat a precious document, because that is exactly what it is. Some people like to fold it into a small square. Others prefer a simple fold down the middle. Still others create an intricate pattern that pleases their artistic sensibilities. The method matters less than the care with which you handle this physical representation of spiritual truth. Place your folded affirmation in your wallet next to your money, or if you carry no wallet, in your pocket close to your heart where you can feel its presence throughout the day. Some people prefer to carry it in a special compartment separate from their credit cards and receipts, treating it as more valuable than any currency. Others like to place it right next to their cash as a reminder that physical money is just a symbol of the infinite wealth that surrounds them like air. Every morning when you wake, before you check your phone for messages or emails, before you think about your schedule or worry about your problems, before you allow the concerns of the day to capture your attention, take out this paper and read the words aloud 3 times. But do not simply speak them with your lips like empty recitation of meaningless syllables. Feel them in your bones. Let them resonate in every cell of your body. Breathe them into your lungs as if they were life-giving oxygen. Let them become as real to you as the ground beneath your feet or the roof over your head. As you speak these sacred words, create a mental picture of abundance flowing toward you from every direction like rivers converging into one mighty stream. See opportunities opening before you, like flowers opening to the morning Sunday. Feel doors of possibility swinging wide to welcome you into experiences of prosperity and joy. Imagine the gratitude you will feel when divine supply manifests in visible form. But feel that gratitude right now as if the blessing had already arrived at your doorstep. This is not visualization in the sense of fantasy or wishful dreaming. This is recognition of what is already true in the realm of divine supply, acknowledgement of blessings that are already on their way to you, claiming of good that is already yours by spiritual right even though it has not yet appeared in physical form. Throughout your day, whenever you open your wallet to spend money or receive money, whenever you reach for your credit cards or count your cash, let your eyes fall naturally on that folded paper. Do not make it a big production or draw attention to your practice, but simply allow it to serve as a gentle reminder of the deeper truth about abundance that transcends whatever amount of physical currency you happen to be carrying. Let it interrupt any thoughts of lack or worry that may be trying to establish themselves in your consciousness. Let it call you back to gratitude and trust when fear attempts to steal your peace. Let it remind you that the few bills in your wallet are just symbols of the infinite abundance that surrounds you like an ocean surrounds a fish, that is available to you like air is available to your lungs, that seeks to express itself through you like sunlight, seeks to shine through a clear window. In the evening before sleep, after you have completed the activities of your day and prepared for rest, take out your abundance affirmation one final time and hold it gently in your hands. This is a sacred moment, a time of communion with the divine abundance that never sleeps, never rests, never stops seeking channels through which to bless the world. Review your day with the eyes of gratitude, looking for every way that abundance showed up in your experience. no matter how small or seemingly insignificant those manifestations may appear. Did someone smile at you with genuine warmth? That was abundance of love seeking expression. Did you find a convenient parking space when you needed one? That was abundance of grace smoothing your path. Did you have food to nourish your body? That was abundance of provision caring for your needs. Train your spiritual vision to recognize the countless ways you are already blessed, already provided for, already surrounded by evidence of divine care and supply. Most people miss 90% of the abundance that flows through their lives because they are looking for it to appear in one specific form, usually money, while ignoring the thousands of other ways blessing arrives at their doorstep. Then speak words of gratitude for all the good you received during the day, acknowledging each gift as an expression of infinite love, appreciating each blessing as evidence of your connection to unlimited supply. Thank the Divine Mother for the air you breathed freely all day, for the water that quenched your thirst, for the food that nourished your body, for the shelter that protected you from the elements, for the people who touched your life with kindness, for the opportunities that presented themselves, for the challenges that helped you grow stronger. After expressing gratitude for what you received, speak words of positive expectation for all the good that is flowing toward you even now while you prepare for sleep. Declare with Besses, with Peking Ome Jaswad, quiet confidence that tomorrow will bring new opportunities for abundance to express itself through your life. Affirm that solutions to any problems you face are already being arranged in the invisible realm. Trust that divine intelligence is working on your behalf even while your conscious mind rests. End this evening ritual by reading your abundance affirmation one final time, sealing your consciousness in truth before you surrender to rest, programming your subconscious mind with prosperity consciousness that will work on your behalf throughout the night. As you drift off to sleep, let your last conscious thoughts be of gratitude and trust, of abundance and possibility, of faith in divine provision that never fails those who align themselves with its flow. For those of you ready to take this practice to deeper levels, you can adapt these principles for specific financial goals in particular circumstances. If you need a certain amount of money for a specific purpose, perhaps to pay off debt or make a necessary purchase or invest in an opportunity, write that exact amount on a separate piece of paper, along with words of gratitude for divine provision of that sum. But be very careful about the energy with which you make such requests, my friend. Make sure your asking comes from a place of trust rather than desperation, from faith rather than fear, from claiming your inheritance rather than begging for charity. Feel grateful for the answer before you see it manifest in physical form, knowing with absolute certainty that God's timing is always perfect, that divine supply always arrives at precisely the right moment for your highest good. Place this specific request next to your general abundance affirmation in your wallet, treating both papers with equal reverence and respect. Read both affirmations during your morning and evening practices, but never let the specific request become more important than the general consciousness of abundance. The specific is temporary, but the consciousness is eternal. The money you need today may come and go, but abundance awareness will serve you for the rest of your life. During times of crisis or extraordinary financial pressure, when circumstances seem to contradict everything you know about divine supply, when bills pile up faster than income arrives, when unexpected expenses threaten to overwhelm your resources, this abundance practice becomes even more crucial and even more powerful. These are the moments when your faith gets tested, when your understanding gets challenged, when your commitment to consciousness principles must prove itself stronger than appearances. When external circumstances seem to shout that lack is real and abundance is just wishful thinking, your prosperity reminder becomes an anchor that keeps you connected to truth, a lighthouse that guides you through the storm of fear and worry back to the solid ground of divine law. Read your affirmation more frequently during difficult times. Speak it with greater conviction. Carry it with deeper reverence. Let it be your declaration of independence from the tyranny of circumstances and your pledge of allegiance to the kingdom of infinite supply. I have watched countless souls navigate through financial crises using these exact principles, dear friend. I have seen people lose jobs and find better ones, lose houses and discover perfect homes they could never have afforded before, lose investments, and uncover opportunities that multiplied their wealth beyond their wildest dreams. But in every case, the outer transformation followed an inner transformation. The circumstances changed because consciousness changed first. You can share these principles with your family members, but remember that consciousness cannot be forced on anyone, No matter how much you love them or how desperately you want them to experience the freedom that comes from abundance awareness, each soul must come to spiritual truth in their own time and in their own way, following the inner guidance that leads them from wherever they are to wherever they need to be. Share your own experience rather than trying to convince others of the validity of these teachings. Let family and friends see the peace that comes from trusting in divine provision. Allow them to witness the confidence that flows from knowing you are never alone, never abandoned, never left without resources to meet whatever challenges life may bring. Answer their questions when they ask, but never try to force your understanding on someone who is not ready to receive it. The seed of spiritual truth grows only in soil that has been prepared by sincere seeking and genuine openness. You cannot make someone ready to embrace abundance consciousness, but you can become such a radiant example of its benefits that others naturally become curious about the source of your serenity and strength. Transform your living environment into a reflection of abundance consciousness by treating your home, your workplace, your car, your personal belongings as sacred spaces worthy of beauty, order, and respect. You do not need expensive things to create an atmosphere of abundance, my friend. Clean what you already have and arrange it with care and attention. Add fresh flowers from your garden or a single candle to bring light and fragrance to your space. Polish the furniture until it shines. Organize your closets and drawers so everything has its proper place. When you treat your current environment with reverence and gratitude, when you care for your present possessions as if they were precious treasures, you send a powerful message to your subconscious mind and to the universe itself that you value abundance in all its forms. You demonstrate that you are a good steward of what you have been given, that you can be trusted with greater blessings, that you appreciate quality and beauty and excellence. Many people make the mistake of waiting until they have more money to create beauty in their lives, waiting until they can afford better things to take care of what they already own. But this backwards approach actually repels abundance rather than attracting it, because it signals that you take your current blessings for granted, that you do not recognize value when you see it, that you are not ready to receive more because you do not appreciate what you already have. Start where you are, with what you have, right now. Make your current space as beautiful and organized as possible using only what you already possess. You will be amazed at how this simple practice begins to shift your consciousness from focusing on what you lack to appreciating what you have, from feeling poor to feeling rich, from waiting for abundance to claiming abundance as your present reality. Create rituals of appreciation around the money you currently have, however small that amount may seem. When you receive your paycheck, take a moment to hold it in your hands with gratitude before depositing it in the bank. Thank God for the work that made this income possible. Appreciate your employer for providing the opportunity to earn money through honest labor. Bless the money itself and ask that it multiply and return to you with increase. When you spend money, do so with conscious awareness rather than unconscious habit. Before making any purchase, take a moment to feel grateful that you have the resources to buy what you need or want. Appreciate the person or business that provides the goods or services you are purchasing. Send thoughts of blessing to the money as it leaves your hands, knowing that it will circulate through the economy and eventually return to you multiplied. This conscious approach to handling money transforms every financial transaction into a spiritual practice, every exchange of currency into an opportunity for blessing and gratitude. Money becomes a tool for expressing love rather than a source of stress and worry. Spending becomes an act of faith rather than an act of fear. Your wallet becomes a temple where the sacred and the practical meet in perfect harmony. Now let me share with you some advanced applications of these abundance principles that can accelerate your prosperity journey and deepen your understanding of how consciousness creates experience. These are practices I have shared only with my most dedicated students, those who have proven their commitment to spiritual growth and their readiness to receive deeper teachings. The first advanced practice involves what I call prosperity meditation, a specific form of contemplation that aligns your entire being with the flow of divine abundance. Set aside 15 to 20 minutes each morning, if possible before sunrise when the energy of the day is fresh and pure, to enter into deep communion with the source of all supply. Sit quietly in a comfortable position where you will not be disturbed. Close your eyes and begin to breathe slowly and deeply, allowing your body to relax and your mind to become still. Hold your abundance affirmation in your hands as you meditate, feeling its physical presence as a connection to the spiritual truth it represents. Begin to repeat silently within your mind, I am one with infinite abundance. Divine supply flows through me now. Feel these words not just as concepts, but as living realities, as descriptions of what is actually happening within your consciousness right now. Imagine that every breath you take draws in abundance from the unlimited supply that surrounds you. Feel that abundance entering your body with each inhalation, filling every cell, every organ, every system with the energy of prosperity and provision. As you continue breathing in this conscious way, begin to visualize abundance radiating from your being like light radiates from the sunday. See yourself as a source of blessing rather than a seeker of blessing, as a channel through which divine abundance flows to touch and heal and provide for everyone in your world. This shifts you from the consciousness of receiving to the consciousness of giving, from focusing on your needs to focusing on your gifts, from trying to get abundance to allowing abundance to give itself through you. The second advanced practice involves creating what I call an abundance altar in your home, a sacred space dedicated to acknowledging and appreciating prosperity in all its forms. This need not be elaborate or expensive, just a small table or shelf where you can arrange objects that remind you of divine supply and abundance consciousness. Place your written affirmation in a place of honor on this altar, perhaps in a beautiful frame or wrapped in silk cloth. Add fresh flowers or green plants to represent the abundance of nature. Include pictures of people you love and want to bless with prosperity. Add symbols that represent abundance to you, perhaps coins from different countries, crystals that catch and reflect light, or small statues that inspire feelings of plenty and provision. Spend a few minutes at your abundance altar each day, preferably at the same time to establish a routine that your subconscious mind begins to expect and prepare for. Use this time to express gratitude for all the abundance already present in your life. Pray for the prosperity and well-being of others, especially those who are struggling financially. Ask for guidance about how to be a better channel for divine supply to flow through you to bless the world. The third advanced practice involves what might be called prosperity tithing, but not in the way most people understand that term. This is not about giving a specific percentage of your income to religious organizations, though such giving can certainly be part of your abundance practice if you feel guided in that direction. Prosperity tithing is about giving something back to the universe as acknowledgement that everything you receive comes ultimately from divine source. This giving can take many forms, depending on your circumstances and inclinations. You might give money to causes you care about, time to organizations that serve others, skills to projects that need your expertise, prayers to people who need spiritual support, or simply acts of kindness to strangers who cross your path. The key is to give regularly, systematically, consciously, as a spiritual discipline rather than as an occasional impulse. When you give in this way, you participate in the cosmic law of circulation that governs all abundance. You demonstrate your understanding that the universe is not a closed system where resources are limited and hoarding is necessary, but an open system where supply is unlimited and sharing increases abundance for everyone. You prove to yourself that you trust the source to provide for your needs, that you are not afraid of running out, that you know giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin. But perhaps the most powerful advanced practice is learning to recognize and celebrate abundance in its countless disguises. To see prosperity not just as money in the bank, but as richness in every dimension of human experience. True abundance includes health and energy, loving relationships and meaningful work, creative expression and spiritual growth, natural beauty and inner peace. Begin to keep what I call an abundance journal, a daily record of all the ways prosperity shows up in your life. Each evening before sleep, write down at least 5 specific examples of abundance you experienced that day. Perhaps someone gave you helpful advice that saved you time and money. Maybe you found exactly what you needed at a price you could afford. Possibly you enjoyed a beautiful sunset that cost nothing but enriched your soul immeasurably. Train yourself to see abundance everywhere. In every kind gesture received, every problem solved, every moment of joy experienced, every opportunity to serve others, every instance of perfect timing, every example of needs being met in unexpected ways. As you become more conscious of how constantly abundance flows through your life, you naturally become more magnetic to even greater expressions of prosperity. Let me tell you about Sarah, a single mother who came to me several years ago in desperation. She was working 2 jobs to support her 3 children, barely keeping up with rent and utilities, constantly worried about unexpected expenses that would push her over the financial edge. She had tried budgeting and coupon clipping, side businesses and second mortgages, but nothing seemed to create the security she craved for her family. When I gave her these abundance practices, she initially resisted, claiming she was too busy and too stressed to add anything else to her overwhelming schedule. But desperation eventually overcame skepticism, and she began carrying her written affirmation and practicing the daily gratitude exercises I had taught her. Within 3 months, she received a promotion at her primary job that came with a substantial raise. 6 months later, she was offered a position with another company that paid even more and required only 1 job instead of 2. Within a year, she had moved her family to a better neighborhood, established a college fund for her children, and begun investing in her retirement. But the most remarkable change was not in her bank account, wonderful as that improvement was. The most dramatic transformation was in her energy, her confidence, her sense of possibilities. She stopped seeing herself as a victim of circumstances and began seeing herself as a co-creator with divine abundance. She stopped feeling afraid of the future and began feeling excited about opportunities that might appear. She stopped worrying about lack and began expecting good things to happen. Sarah discovered what millions of people before her have discovered, and what you too will discover as you apply these principles faithfully. Abundance consciousness creates abundant experience. When you change your mind about money, money changes its behavior toward you. When you shift your beliefs about prosperity, prosperity shifts its availability to you. When you transform your relationship with abundance, abundance transforms its expression through you. Now let me address some of the challenges you may face as you begin implementing these practices, because I want you to be prepared for the resistance that almost everyone encounters when making such fundamental changes in consciousness. Your ego mind, the part of you that has become comfortable with limitation and familiar with struggle, will likely protest these new ways of thinking and being. You may find yourself thinking that these practices are too simple to be effective, too spiritual to be practical, too good to be true. You may catch your mind saying things like, "This positive thinking stuff is just denial of reality," or "Real prosperity requires hard work, not wishful thinking," or "People who believe this abundance nonsense are just setting themselves up for disappointment." When such thoughts arise, and they almost certainly will, do not fight them or judge yourself for having them. Simply recognize them as expressions of old programming, remnants of poverty consciousness that no longer serve your highest good. Thank these thoughts for trying to protect you from disappointment, then gently redirect your attention back to the truth you are now choosing to embrace. You may also face skepticism or even ridicule from family members, friends, or colleagues who are invested in limitation consciousness and threatened by your commitment to abundance awareness. They may make comments like, "You are living in a fantasy world," or "Money does not grow on trees," or "You need to be more realistic about your situation." Again, do not take such comments personally or allow them to shake your growing faith in abundance principles. People can only share what they have, can only give what they possess. Those who live in fear naturally share fear. Those who believe in limitation naturally promote limitation. Those who struggle with money naturally assume everyone must struggle with money. Your job is not to convince them they are wrong, but to prove through your own experience that there is another way to live, another way to think about money, another way to relate to abundance. Let your results speak louder than your words. Allow your transformation to be your testimony. Become so radiantly prosperous in consciousness that others naturally become curious about the source of your confidence and peace. Some of you listening to these words may be thinking, "But Paramahansa, you do not understand how desperate my situation really is. You do not know about my debts, my bankruptcy, my foreclosure, my unemployment, my medical bills, my family responsibilities." These abundance principles may work for people with minor financial problems, but my circumstances are too extreme, too urgent, too complicated for such simple solutions. My dear friend, I want you to understand something that may shock you. The worse your financial situation appears to be, the more powerful these abundance principles can be in transforming your experience. Why? Because desperate circumstances create the kind of openness and willingness that allows miracles to occur. When human solutions have been exhausted, when logical approaches have failed, when conventional wisdom offers no hope, that is precisely when divine intervention becomes most obvious and most dramatic. I have personally witnessed people emerge from bankruptcy to become millionaires, rise from homelessness to home ownership, transform from unemployment to entrepreneurial success, all through the faithful application of abundance consciousness principles. But in every case, the outer transformation required an inner transformation first. The circumstances changed because the person changed first. Your current financial situation, no matter how challenging it may appear, is not your final destination but your starting point. It is not your permanent condition but your temporary experience. It is not evidence of your unworthiness but an opportunity for your growth. Every financial crisis is a spiritual invitation to discover deeper levels of faith, trust, and reliance on divine supply. Let me share with you the story of Michael, a man who lost his construction business during an economic recession that devastated the building industry in his area. He had employed 37 people and prided himself on never missing a payroll in 15 years of operation. When the recession hit and new construction virtually stopped, he was forced to lay off his entire crew and eventually declare bankruptcy. The shame and guilt he felt about failing his employees and their families drove him into deep depression. He spent months sitting in his empty office, surrounded by equipment he could no longer afford to operate, wondering how everything he had worked so hard to build could have disappeared so completely. His wife suggested he seek counseling, his friends recommended he look for another job, his accountant advised him to accept his losses and move on. But Michael felt too defeated to take action, too ashamed to face the world, too hopeless to believe that anything could ever improve. That is when a mutual friend brought him to one of my lectures on abundance consciousness. He sat in the back row with his arms crossed, his face set in an expression of skeptical resignation, clearly expecting nothing helpful from what he probably viewed as impractical spiritual theory. Something shifted in him that evening as he listened to stories of others who had transformed their financial situations through changes in consciousness. Not hope exactly, but perhaps the faintest possibility that there might be another way to approach his problems. He stayed after the lecture to speak with me privately, pouring out his story of baited business failure and personal despair with tears streaming down his weathered face. I gave him the same practices I am sharing with you now, the same abundance affirmations, the same daily disciplines of gratitude and trust. He began carrying his written declaration in his wallet and reading it morning and evening as I had instructed. At first, he admitted later, it felt like empty words, like trying to convince himself of something he did not really believe. But desperation gave him the motivation to continue when enthusiasm alone might have failed. Week after week, he practiced abundance consciousness, even when everything in his experience contradicted what he was affirming. Month after month, he expressed gratitude for blessings he could not yet see and claimed prosperity that had not yet appeared. Slowly, gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, his entire outlook began to change. Instead of seeing his business failure as proof of his inadequacy, he began to view it as preparation for something better. Instead of feeling ashamed of his bankruptcy, he began to see it as a clearing away of old limitations to make room for new possibilities. Instead of believing he was too old to start over, he began to feel excited about the wisdom and experience he could bring to a fresh beginning. Opportunities started appearing in the most unexpected ways. A former client called to ask if he could help with a small remodeling project. The fee was modest, but it felt like a fortune to someone who had not earned money in months. One project led to another, then another. Word spread about his quality work and fair prices. Within 6 months, he was busier than he could handle, working alone. But instead of immediately hiring employees and trying to rebuild his previous business model, he decided to operate differently this time. He formed partnerships with other contractors, subcontracting work he could not handle himself, while maintaining the personal touch that made him successful. This collaborative approach proved more profitable and much less stressful than his previous method of trying to control every aspect of every project. Within 2 years, his income exceeded what he had earned during the best years of his original business. Within 5 years, he had paid off all his bankruptcy debts even though he was legally not required to do so, bought a new house, and established a college fund for his grandchildren. But most importantly, he had learned to see his business as an expression of service rather than just a way to make money, to treat his work as a spiritual practice rather than just a financial necessity. Michael discovered what you too will discover as you apply these abundance principles consistently. Prosperity is not about accumulating wealth, but about aligning with the flow of divine supply. It is not about grabbing as much as you can for yourself, but about becoming a clear channel through which abundance can bless the world. It is not about achieving financial security through human effort, but about finding unshakable peace through spiritual understanding. The key to Michael's transformation, and the key to your transformation, lies in what I call the quantum leap of faith. At some point in your abundance journey, you must be willing to act on spiritual truth even when physical evidence contradicts that truth. You must be willing to claim your inheritance even when your bank account suggests you are poor. You must be willing to give when logic says you should conserve, to trust when experience says you should worry, to expect miracles when history says you should be realistic. This quantum leap cannot be taken with your rational mind, because the rational mind operates only from past experience and current evidence. It can only project more of what has already been, more of what appears to be true now. But abundance consciousness operates from the realm of infinite possibility, from the dimension where all good things already exist in perfect form, waiting to be claimed by those who have the faith to receive them. The quantum leap is taken with your heart, with your intuition, with that part of you that knows things your mind cannot explain and believes things your logic cannot justify. It is the part of you that recognizes truth even when it wears the disguise of impossibility, that hears the voice of God even when it whispers through the loudest storms of doubt and fear. When you take this quantum leap, when you begin to live and breathe and move from abundance consciousness regardless of what your circumstances appear to be telling you, something magical begins to happen. The universe starts to rearrange itself around your new beliefs. Opportunities appear that were invisible before. Resources become available that seemed non-existent previously. Solutions emerge that were unimaginable until now. This is not magic in the sense of supernatural interference with natural laws. This is the deepest natural law of all, the law that governs how consciousness creates experience, how belief shapes reality, how faith moves mountains of limitation and doubt. When you align your thoughts and feelings and actions with the truth of abundance, abundance has no choice but to express itself through your life, because that is simply how the universe works. But remember, dear friend, this alignment must be complete and consistent, not partial and sporadic. You cannot affirm abundance in the morning and worry about lack in the afternoon. You cannot claim prosperity during your meditation time and speak words of limitation during your daily conversations. You cannot act from faith on Sundays and act from fear the rest of the week. Abundance consciousness must become your new default setting, your natural way of thinking and feeling and being in every moment of every day. This requires vigilance and discipline and patience, especially in the beginning when old patterns of thought are still strong and new patterns of thought are still fragile. Every time you catch your mind drifting toward worry about money, gently redirect it toward gratitude for current blessings. Every time you hear yourself speaking words of lack or limitation, consciously choose to speak words of abundance and possibility instead. Every time you feel afraid about your financial future, remember your affirmations and reconnect with your faith in divine provision. This is not about pretending that challenges do not exist or denying that problems are real. This is about choosing to focus your attention and energy on solutions rather than problems, on possibilities rather than limitations, on what you want to create rather than what you want to avoid. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. Where your energy flows, your experience grows. Now, my beloved friend, you now understand what the wisest souls have always known, what the most prosperous people throughout history have discovered through experience, what I have witnessed in my own life and in the lives of thousands of students over many decades of teaching. Prosperity is not something you chase like a dog chasing its tail, spinning in circles of effort without ever catching what it seeks. True prosperity is something you claim as your divine birthright, something you recognize as your natural inheritance, something you accept as the inevitable result of aligning your consciousness with the infinite abundance that is your true nature. The paper you will carry in your wallet is just a symbol, but what a powerful symbol it represents your commitment to thinking new thoughts, feeling new feelings, expecting new experiences. The real abundance lives in your awakened consciousness, in your recognition of your oneness with the source of all supply, in your faith that divine provision is always available to those who know how to receive it. When you carry the awareness of infinite abundance finds its way to you as naturally as water finds its way to the sea, as surely as light finds its way through darkness, as inevitably as spring follows winter. Remember this truth with every fiber of your being. Let it echo in every chamber of your heart. Breathe it into every cell of your body. You are not a beggar asking for scraps from a stingy universe. You are not a victim of circumstances beyond your control. You are not condemned to struggle with money for the rest of your life just because you have struggled in the past. You are a beloved child of the infinite God who owns everything in creation, whose treasury never runs empty, whose generosity knows no limits. Lack and limitation are not your natural state but temporary illusions that dissolve in the light of abundance consciousness. Poverty and struggle are not your destiny but detours from the highway of prosperity that is your spiritual inheritance. Fear and worry about money are not realistic responses to challenging circumstances but learned habits that can be unlearned through practice and patience. Scarcity and competition are not facts about the nature of reality, but beliefs about the nature of reality that create experiences that seem to prove those beliefs true. When you change your beliefs, you change your experience. When you shift your consciousness, you shift your circumstances. When you align your thoughts and feelings with the truth of abundance, abundance aligns itself with your thoughts and feelings. This is not wishful thinking or naive optimism. This is spiritual law, as reliable as gravity, as predictable as sunrise, as certain as the love that beats your heart and breathes your lungs without any effort from your conscious mind. Some of you listening to these words right now are feeling a stirring in your souls, a recognition of truth that resonates in the deepest places of your being. You are remembering something you knew as a child before the world taught you to be afraid, something you believed before experience convinced you to doubt, something you felt before circumstances trained you to worry. That stirring is the voice of your divine nature calling you home to abundance consciousness, inviting you to reclaim your inheritance as an expression of infinite supply. That recognition is your soul awakening from the dream of limitation into the reality of unlimited possibility. That resonance is the tuning fork of truth vibrating in harmony with the abundance that is always broadcasting from the divine source. Listen to that inner voice, dear one. Trust that soul stirring. Follow that spiritual resonance wherever it leads you, even if it leads you away from the familiar territory of struggle into the unknown landscape of ease and flow and miraculous provision. Your soul knows things your mind has forgotten. Your spirit remembers what your personality has learned to doubt. Others listening to these words may be feeling resistance, skepticism, or fear. You may be thinking that this all sounds too good to be true, too simple to be effective, too spiritual to be practical. That resistance is normal, expected, and actually a positive sign. It means you are hearing something that challenges your current beliefs, something that threatens your existing patterns, something that invites you to grow beyond your present limitations. Do not judge yourself for feeling resistant. Do not condemn yourself for having doubts. Do not criticize yourself for being afraid. Simply recognize these feelings as natural responses to new information, as expressions of the part of you that prefers the familiar to the unknown, the predictable to the miraculous, the controllable to the surrendered. Thank your resistance for trying to keep you safe, then gently set it aside and take one small step toward abundance consciousness. You do not have to believe everything I have shared with you immediately and completely. You do not have to transform your entire financial life overnight. You do not have to become a perfect example of prosperity consciousness before you begin. Just take one small step. Write your abundance affirmation on a piece of paper. Carry it in your wallet for 1 week. Read it morning and evening for 7 days. Notice what happens in your thoughts, your feelings, your expectations, your experiences. Give this simple practice a fair trial before you decide whether or not it has value for your life. If after 1 week you see no benefit, if you feel no shift in your consciousness, if you experience no change in your circumstances or your attitude toward circumstances, then you can set aside these teachings and continue living as you have been living. But if you notice even the smallest improvement, even the slightest shift toward greater peace or confidence or hope, then continue the practice for another week, then another month, then another year. Let your own experience be your teacher. Let your own results be your proof. Let your own transformation be your evidence that abundance consciousness is not just beautiful theory, but practical reality. Not just inspiring philosophy, but effective technology for creating the prosperous, peaceful, purposeful life you deserve. Repeat after me now with all the conviction of your immortal soul, with all the power of your divine nature, with all the authority of your spiritual inheritance. I am a child of the infinite. Divine abundance flows through me now as naturally as breath flows through my lungs. I gratefully receive all good that is mine by divine right. And so at Island, feel these words in your bones, dear one. Let them echo in the chambers of your heart, like church bells ringing across the countryside, calling all who hear them to remember their true nature. Breathe them into the depths of your being until they become more real to you than your fears, more solid than your doubts, more permanent than your problems, more reliable than your past experiences. Let these words become the foundation upon which you build your new relationship with money, the cornerstone of your transformed approach to prosperity, the bedrock of your unshakable faith in divine provision. When doubts arise, return to these words. When fears attack, take refuge in these words. When circumstances seem to contradict these words, hold on to them even more tightly. These are not just pretty phrases or hopeful sentiments, my beloved friend. These are statements of spiritual fact, declarations of divine law, affirmations of the deepest truth about who you are and what you deserve and how the universe operates. They are more true than your bank statement, more accurate than your credit report, more reliable than your employment status, more permanent than your current circumstances. If this truth has touched something real and alive in your heart, if you feel the stirring of recognition that says, yes, this is what I have been searching for, yes, this is the answer I have been seeking, yes, this is the hope I have been needing, then I invite you to take action that will help other seeking souls find their way to the same abundance consciousness that is now available to you. Please subscribe to this channel for more practical spirituality that bridges the gap between heaven and earth, more teachings that show you how to apply eternal principles to everyday challenges, more wisdom that helps you discover the divine solutions that are always available for human problems. Your subscription helps ensure that these abundance teachings reach other hearts that are ready to receive them, other minds that are open to transformation, other lives that are prepared for breakthrough. Like this video to help the algorithm share it with people who need exactly this message at exactly this moment in their spiritual journey. Your simple click becomes a blessing that multiplies blessing, a gift that keeps giving, a seed that produces harvests of hope and healing and abundance in lives you may never know about but whose transformation you help make possible. And in the comments below, please share your own experiences with prosperity and prayer, your struggles and victories with money and abundance, your questions and insights about financial spirituality, your stories of how consciousness principles have worked in your own life. Your testimony may be exactly what another soul needs to hear today to take their first step toward financial freedom and spiritual abundance. We are all walking each other home to the truth of our divine nature, all helping each other remember what we temporarily forgot, all supporting each other in reclaiming the inheritance of abundance that is our birthright as children of infinite supply. Your story becomes part of the great tapestry of transformation. Your experience becomes encouragement for others. Your victory becomes hope for those still struggling. But most importantly, my beloved friend, do not let these words remain as mere inspiration that fades when the video ends, as beautiful ideas that never get translated into practical action, as wonderful possibilities that never become actual realities. Take action today, right now, while the energy of transformation is flowing through your consciousness, while the door of opportunity stands wide open before you. Write your abundance affirmation before you do anything else. Place it in your wallet before you go to sleep tonight. Begin the daily practice of morning and evening readings before another day passes. Start your gratitude journal before another week goes by. Create your abundance altar before another month slips away. Let this be the day your relationship with money and prosperity changes forever. Let this be the moment when you stop being a victim of financial circumstances and become a co-creator with divine abundance. Let this be the hour when you cease struggling against lack and start flowing with plenty. Let this be the turning point when you quit focusing on what you do not have and begin appreciating what you do have, when you stop fearing what might happen and start expecting good things to unfold. Remember this above all else, dear soul. Carry this truth with you wherever you go. Let it be your constant companion and your unshakable foundation. You are already blessed beyond measure. The abundance you seek is already seeking you. The prosperity you desire is already flowing toward you like a river flowing toward the sea. The wealth you dream of is already being arranged in the invisible realm, already being prepared for manifestation, already on its way to your experience. Your only job is to tune your consciousness to receive what is already given, to claim what is already yours, to become in your awareness what you have always been in truth, a magnificent expression of infinite abundance, a beloved child of unlimited supply, a perfect channel through which divine prosperity can bless the world. May the divine beloved supply all your needs according to his infinite riches. May you never want for anything that serves your highest good and the greatest good of all. May you become such a radiant example of abundance consciousness that others naturally seek to learn the source of your serenity and success. May you become a blessing to all whose lives you touch, sharing the prosperity that flows through you like a river shares its life-giving waters with every flower along its banks. And may you always remember, in times of plenty and in times of seeming lack, in moments of triumph and in moments of challenge, that you are never alone in this journey toward abundance consciousness. The same divine intelligence that guides the stars in their courses and teaches the flowers when to bloom is guiding your steps toward greater prosperity and deeper peace. Trust that guidance, follow that wisdom, surrender to that love. The path of abundance consciousness is not always easy, my dear friend, but it is always worth walking. There will be days when old patterns of fear and worry seem stronger than new patterns of faith and trust. There will be moments when circumstances appear to contradict everything you have learned about divine supply. There will be times when other people question your commitment to spiritual principles and try to convince you to return to conventional approaches to money and security. In those challenging moments, remember that every great soul who has ever lived has faced similar tests of faith. Every saint, every sage, every master who has discovered the secrets of abundance consciousness has walked through the valley of doubt before reaching the mountaintop of unshakable knowing. Your struggles are not signs of failure but stages of growth, not evidence of unworthiness but opportunities for strengthening. I have seen thousands of souls transform their financial lives through these very practices, and in every case, the breakthrough came not in spite of the challenges they faced, but because of how they responded to those challenges. They used their difficulties as fuel for deeper faith. They transformed their obstacles into stepping stones. They converted their problems into prayers, their fears into faith, their lacks into launching pads for greater abundance. You have that same power within you right now, dear one. You have that same potential for transformation, that same capacity for breakthrough, that same divine inheritance of unlimited supply. The only difference between you and those who have already achieved financial freedom through abundance consciousness is that they took the first step, then the second step, then the third step, continuing to walk the path even when the destination was not yet visible. Your first step is writing that abundance affirmation and carrying it in your wallet. Your second step is reading it faithfully morning and evening while feeling its truth in your heart. Your third step is looking for evidence of abundance in your abundance, daily experience, and recording that evidence in your gratitude journal. Each step leads naturally to the next step. Each practice prepares you for deeper practices. Each level of consciousness opens doorways to even greater levels. But you must take that first step, my beloved friend. You must move from inspiration to application, from understanding to experience, from hoping for abundance to practicing abundance consciousness. No one else can take this journey for you. No one else can do this inner work on your behalf. No one else can claim your divine inheritance of prosperity and peace. Yet you are not alone in this sacred endeavor. Every time you read your abundance affirmation, you join with countless other souls around the world who are making the same declaration of faith. Every time you express gratitude for blessings received, you add your voice to a global chorus of appreciation that lifts the consciousness of humanity. Every time you act from abundance rather than lack, you contribute to a worldwide awakening to the reality of divine supply. You are part of a great movement of consciousness, a spiritual renaissance that is transforming how human beings understand money and prosperity and success. You are a pioneer in the exploration of inner wealth, a trailblazer in the territory of abundance awareness, a leader in the revolution that will eventually free all of humanity from the tyranny of poverty consciousness. Your personal transformation becomes a gift to the collective consciousness of our planet. Your individual breakthrough creates space for others to break through. Your private victory becomes public inspiration for those who are still struggling. Every step you take toward abundance consciousness helps make that path easier for those who will follow. This is why your commitment to these practices matters so much, why your dedication to abundance consciousness is so important, why your personal prosperity journey serves the highest good of all, beings everywhere. You are not just changing your own life when you apply these principles. You are helping to change the world, one consciousness at a time, one heart at a time, one wallet at a time. So carry that abundance affirmation with reverence and respect, knowing that it connects you not only to your own divine nature but to the divine nature of every soul who has ever lived or ever will live. Read those sacred words with conviction and gratitude, understanding that they are not just your personal declarations but universal truths that apply to every child of the infinite. Live from abundance consciousness with joy and confidence, recognizing that you are demonstrating for others what becomes possible when human beings align themselves with the infinite supply that is always available. always sufficient, always seeking expression through willing hearts and open minds. And always remember, dear soul, that the greatest abundance of all is not money in your wallet but love in your heart, not possessions in your home but peace in your mind, not security in your bank account, but trust in your relationship with the divine source of all good things. When you have that inner abundance, outer abundance follows as naturally as flowers follow spring, as surely as dawn follows darkness, as inevitably as rivers flow toward the sea. The paper in your wallet is just the beginning of your abundance journey, not the end. It is a symbol that points you toward the real treasure, which is the awakening of your consciousness to the infinite wealth that is your true nature. Carry it with gratitude, read it with faith, live from its truth with courage, and watch as your entire world transforms to reflect the abundance that has always been yours to claim. Before we close our time together, let me leave you with one final story that perfectly illustrates the miraculous power of abundance consciousness when it is lived with complete faith and unwavering commitment. There was once a poor fisherman who lived in a small village by the sea. Every day he would take his tiny boat out to cast his nets, hoping to catch enough fish to feed his family, and perhaps sell a few at the market for the coins needed to buy rice and oil. For many years, his catches were modest at best. Some days he would return with empty nets, his children going to bed hungry, his wife wondering how they would survive another week. Other fishermen mocked him, saying he must be cursed by the sea gods, that he should give up fishing and find work on land. But something deep within his heart whispered that his fortunes could change if he could just learn to fish with faith instead of fishing with fear. One morning, before dawn, he sat in his boat holding a small piece of paper on which he had written words similar to those I have shared with you today. Instead of casting his nets immediately as he had always done, he spent time in gratitude for the abundance of fish that swam beneath his boat, thanking the sea for its generosity, blessing his nets before they touched the water. That day his nets came up fuller than they had ever been. The next day, even fuller. Within a week, he was catching more fish than he could carry in his small boat. Within a month, other fishermen were asking him to share his secret. Within a year, he had purchased a larger boat and was employing other fishermen to help him bring in catches that amazed the entire village. But the most remarkable thing was not the abundance of fish he caught. The most remarkable thing was the abundance of joy he radiated, the peace that surrounded him like morning mist, the confidence that flowed from him like light flows from the Sunday. He had discovered what you are now discovering, that when you change your relationship with abundance, abundance changes its relationship with you. This is my final gift to you today, dear friend. Not just the techniques and practices I have shared, but the absolute knowing that these principles work when they are applied with sincere faith and persistent action. I have witnessed their power in my own life and in the lives of countless others. I have seen them transform the most desperate circumstances into the most blessed situations. I have watched them turn poverty into prosperity, lack into abundance, fear into faith, worry into peace. Now it is your turn to become a living demonstration of these eternal truths. Take everything I have shared with you today and make it real in your own experience. Write your abundance affirmation with your own hand. Carry it with your own faith. Read it with your own voice. Live it with your own heart. Let your life become a testament to the power of abundance consciousness, a beacon of hope for others who are still struggling in the darkness of financial fear. Remember that every master was once a beginner, every expert was once a novice, every success story was once someone's impossible dream. You have everything you need right now to begin this transformation. You have a mind capable of new thoughts, a heart capable of new feelings, a spirit capable of claiming new levels of abundance and prosperity. The universe is waiting for you to step into your power as a co-creator with divine supply. The infinite intelligence that governs all of creation is ready to express itself through your consciousness and your circumstances. The abundance that has always been your birthright is prepared to manifest in your experience as soon as you align yourself fully with its flow. So go now with my blessing and with the blessing of all the ascended masters who have walked this path before you. Go with confidence in your divine nature and trust in your unlimited potential. Go with gratitude for all that you have and excitement for all that is coming. Go with the knowing that you are loved, you are supported, you are guided, and you are destined for a life of abundance beyond your current ability to imagine. Take action. Today, write those sacred words. Place them in your wallet. Begin the daily practice that will rewire your consciousness from scarcity to abundance. Let this be the day everything changes, the moment everything shifts, the turning point from struggle to flow, from lack to plenty, from fear to faith. And always remember, beloved soul, that true abundance is not just about having enough money to pay your bills, though that will certainly come. True abundance is about having enough love to share with everyone you meet, enough peace to remain calm in any storm, enough joy to celebrate even the smallest blessings, enough faith to trust the process even when you cannot see the results. When you have abundance in consciousness, you have abundance in everything. When you are rich in spirit, you cannot help but become rich in all the ways that matter. When you know your true worth as a child of the infinite, the world begins to reflect that worth back to you in countless beautiful ways. This is my prayer for you, my beloved friend, that you will discover not just financial prosperity but the infinite riches of your own divine nature. That you will experience not just material abundance, but the boundless wealth of spiritual awakening. That you will claim not just money in your wallet, but the unlimited supply of love, wisdom, joy, and peace that is forever yours to receive. May divine abundance flow through every area of your life like a mighty river flows through fertile valleys, bringing life and growth and beauty wherever it goes. May you become such a clear channel for prosperity consciousness that others are inspired just by being in your presence. May your success story become a source of hope and encouragement for every soul who is still searching for the keys to abundance and financial freedom. Go in peace, go in power, go in the absolute knowing that you are worthy of every good thing the universe has to offer. Your abundance journey begins now, in this moment, with quoting.com, the next thought you think and the next step you take. Make them thoughts of prosperity and steps of faith, and watch as your whole world transforms to reflect the magnificent abundance that has always been your true inheritance. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Peace be with you always, beloved child of infinite abundance. May your journey toward prosperity consciousness be filled with wonder and joy. May your path to financial freedom be lined with blessings and miracles. May your discovery of divine supply bring healing to your heart and hope to your soul. And may you always remember that you are loved beyond measure by the one who is the source of all love, all abundance, all good things that ever were or ever shall be. The light of infinite abundance shines within you now and forever. Namaste, dear soul. Namaste. Beloved one, before we even speak of these two warnings, I invite you to pause for a moment and feel the very air of the place you are in. Do you notice how certain rooms feel lighter, calmer, more welcoming than others? Do you recall walking into a home, perhaps that of a friend or a stranger, and instantly feeling your heart relax, as if the air itself was blessing you? And have you also felt the opposite, that inexplicable heaviness, a subtle disquiet that makes you want to leave quickly without quite knowing why? This is no accident. The walls, the furniture, the objects in our surroundings silently gather and radiate the vibrations of our thoughts, our emotions, and even the unseen forces we attract. Your home is more than wood, stone, and paint. It is a living extension of your consciousness. I have often said that environment is stronger than willpower. Just as a plant will grow straight and strong in fertile soil, but wither in polluted ground, the soul is nourished or weakened by the vibrations in which it dwells. The home becomes like a mirror, reflecting back to us the quality of our inner life and also magnifying it. If our environment is filled with objects that carry low or discordant vibrations, even if we do not consciously think about them, our subconscious mind receives their influence. Day after day, night after night, this silent influence seeps into our thoughts, our moods, our meditations. Think of your home as a sacred garden. Every object is a seed planted in its soil. Some seeds will grow into fragrant flowers of peace, joy, and divine inspiration. Others will sprout thorns of restlessness, anxiety, or heaviness. And here's the truth that many ignore. It is not only our own energy that dwells in these objects. Everything we bring into our home, whether bought, gifted, or inherited, carries the subtle vibration of its origin. If that vibration is pure and uplifting, it harmonizes with our spiritual aspirations. If it is heavy or impure, it becomes like a shadow hanging in the sunlight of our home, blocking the flow of blessings. Now imagine for a moment that there are only two objects, two very specific types that, once removed, can instantly shift the vibration of your home toward clarity, light, and harmony. Just two, Yet they are like great stones in the streambed, diverting the pure flow of divine energy into eddies of stagnation. You may not even realize they are there. You may pass them every day, thinking them harmless. But in the unseen dimension of vibration, they are like slow leaks in the boat of your consciousness, allowing in currents that drain your strength and cloud your joy. I speak to you not to fill your heart with fear, but with hope. When the Master gives a warning, it is never to make you anxious. It is to awaken you to a choice to live in such harmony with divine law that your very dwelling becomes a temple of God's presence. So as we begin this journey together, I ask you to open your mind and heart. Let us walk through the rooms of your spiritual home as well as your physical one. Let us look with new eyes, guided by truth, to see what must remain and what must be gently, lovingly released. And when these two things are gone, you will notice a change not only in the air, not only in your sleep and your meditations, but in the quiet ways blessings begin to flow again. This is the power of aligning your home's vibration with your soul's highest calling. My dear one, before we reveal these two objects, it is important to understand the law that governs why their presence affects you so deeply. Many approach this subject with either superstition or skepticism, but I wish you to see it clearly, without either extreme. The vibration of your home is not an abstract or imaginary concept. It is a living reality that is constantly shaping your thoughts, emotions, and even your spiritual perceptions. Just as a musical instrument must be tuned to produce pure notes, your dwelling must be tuned to receive and radiate the harmonics of divine peace. In my teachings, I have often reminded seekers that the company you keep influences the quality of your consciousness. But company is not only the people you meet, it is also the silent companions of your surroundings, the books, images, symbols, and objects that rest in your space. Each one, whether you notice it or not, emits its own subtle energy. This is why yogis through the ages have kept their living spaces simple, clean, and free of things that disturb the mind or stir up lower vibrations. The ancient rishis understood that environment is a constant teacher. If you fill your home with objects that carry the vibration of violence, fear, greed, or sorrow, then these energies will be your teachers, whispering to your subconscious each day and night. But if you surround yourself with purity, beauty, and symbols of the divine, then your environment itself will help you rise toward God. Philosophically, this truth rests on the law of vibration. Everything in creation is energy in motion, from the densest stone to the subtlest thought. When two vibrations are brought together, they begin to influence each other until they find harmony, either uplifting or lowering the other. This is why it is dangerous to underestimate the effect of what you keep in your home. Your consciousness is like a clear pool of water, but if a drop of muddy water is added daily, over time the whole pool becomes clouded. I do not wish you to think of this teaching as a command born of fear. It is an invitation to freedom. When you understand that certain objects are not merely inanimate, but living with the energy they have absorbed, you become empowered to choose what remains in your sacred space. There is no need for panic, no harsh judgment on the past. Simply recognize that God has given you the gift of discernment, and now you may use it. In the scriptures of India, the home is compared to a lotus pond. The lotus grows in the mud but rises above it, untouched by impurity. Your home too may exist in a world of mixed vibrations, but it can remain a sanctuary of light if you keep its waters clean. The purpose of this message is not to turn you into a collector of fears about what might be harmful. It is to teach you how to feel with spiritual intuition when something is in harmony with your soul and when it is not. This intuition, when developed, becomes your constant guide, far beyond any specific list of warnings. And so, with this understanding, you will now be ready to look at the first of these two objects, not with alarm, but with calm certainty that you have the power to choose what serves your highest good. By seeing the deeper principle behind the warning, you will realize that removing these objects is not simply a physical act. It is a prayer in action, a declaration that your home is a temple, and in this temple, only what is of God may remain. Let us now turn our gaze toward the first of these objects, the one that silently and persistently blocks the free inflow of divine energy into your home. You may pass it every day without so much as a thought, for it often hides under the cloak of decoration, memory, or even usefulness. Yet its vibration is like a shadow cast across a sunny garden, preventing the full warmth of God's blessings from touching the soil of your life. In my years of guiding seekers, I have seen this object take many forms, but its essence is the same. It carries the imprint of suffering, conflict, or destructive energy. It may be a piece of art that depicts violence or despair, a weapon kept for pride or display, a relic of a painful relationship, or even an heirloom imbued with the restless energy of its previous owner's struggles. To the casual eye, it may seem inert, but to the sensitive soul, it radiates a disharmony that unsettles the mind and dims the heart's inner light. You may wonder, can an object truly carry such a burden? My answer, rooted in both yogic science and divine perception, is yes. Just as a cloth takes on the fragrance of the flower it touches, or the stench of the smoke it absorbs, so too does every object absorb the vibrations of the actions, thoughts, and emotions around it. A sword forged in anger will not hum the song of peace. A painting created from despair will not radiate joy. And when such objects are placed in your home, especially in the spaces where you meditate, eat, or rest, they begin to weave their subtle threads into the fabric of your own vibration. Think of your consciousness as a field of sunlight. The thoughts you think, the prayers you offer, the meditations you keep, these are like rays shining outward. But when an object with a heavy or impure vibration sits in your environment, it is as if a dark lens is placed over part of your sun, scattering and dulling its rays. You may still feel moments of joy and clarity, but they will be clouded, and you may not understand why. The truth is that your soul is constantly in dialogue with its surroundings, and every object speaks a silent language. The question is, what is being whispered to you day after day, night after night? Removing such an object is not merely a matter of cleaning your house, it is an act of spiritual hygiene. Just as you would not drink water you know to be tainted, you should not allow the sacred air of your dwelling to be infused with vibrations that do not serve your highest calling. The moment you take such an object in your hands, offer a silent blessing. May you be released from my home and find a place where your vibration causes no harm. If it is appropriate, give it away to be transformed, recycled, or respectfully discarded. And when that space is emptied, fill it not with another random possession, but with something chosen in consciousness, a living plant, a symbol of divine light, a book of sacred wisdom, or simply clean, open space where the soul can breathe. This act may seem simple, yet the shift it brings can be profound. I have seen devotees remove a single such object and notice that their meditation deepens the very next day, that an unexplained heaviness lifts from their mind, that opportunities flow more freely. You see, when you clear the shadow from the sunlight, the garden does not need to be told to grow, it does so naturally, by the law of life. And so, beloved, take this first warning not as a burden, but as a liberation. For in releasing what blocks divine energy, you are making a place where God can dwell more fully in your midst. Now that you have understood the nature of the first object and the invisible weight it casts upon your spiritual environment, let us go deeper into how such an object affects the delicate currents of the mind and soul. You must understand that consciousness is not a fixed, isolated spark. It is in constant motion, exchanging impressions with everything it encounters. When you enter a place of harmony, your mind becomes more peaceful without effort. When you step into a place of disharmony, your thoughts grow restless even if no obvious cause is visible. This is because the subconscious mind is always listening to the language of vibration, even when the conscious mind is occupied elsewhere. When an object saturated with destructive or sorrowful energy resides in your home, its presence operates like a persistent undertone beneath the melody of your daily life. You may be engaged in joyful work, sharing warm moments with loved ones, or sitting in meditation, yet somewhere beneath all this runs a faint, unending hum of disquiet. It is not always enough to be consciously noticed, but it subtly alters the emotional and mental climate in which you live. In yogic science, we know that this influence can cause the life force to stagnate in certain areas of the body, leading over time to fatigue, irritability, or even physical discomfort. You might also find that this subtle disharmony creates a kind of mental drag, making it harder to maintain focus during meditation, more difficult to hold positive thoughts, or easier to fall into old patterns of worry and doubt. Imagine trying to walk through a room where the floor is slightly sticky. You can move forward, but each step requires more effort than it should. This is what happens to the flow of your consciousness when such an object is allowed to remain in your space. It quietly resists the upward pull of the soul. Worse still, if the object has been connected to strong emotions such as anger, greed, grief, or fear, its vibration can serve as a point of attraction for similar energies in the present. You may notice an inexplicable increase in tension within the household, minor arguments arising without cause, or a general sense of heaviness that returns no matter how much you clean or rearrange. The outer order of your home may be perfect, yet the inner atmosphere remains clouded. Beloved, I tell you this not to sow anxiety, but to help you see the deep connection between the physical and the spiritual. The ancient rishis knew that matter and spirit are not separate realms. They interpenetrate and influence each other at every moment. This is why we are called to treat the objects in our homes with as much care as the thoughts in our minds. Both are part of the sacred environment in which the soul either rises toward God or becomes entangled in Maya's illusions. When you identify such an object, do not act with fear or anger toward it. Approach it with compassion, understanding that it has simply absorbed the vibrations to which it has been exposed. Offer a prayer that its energy be neutralized and lifted before you remove it. And then, after its removal, take a few moments to stand in that cleared space, breathing deeply, and consciously invite divine light to fill it. This intentional act creates an energetic seal, ensuring that the space remains open for higher vibrations to dwell. Over time, as you become more sensitive to the unseen language of vibration, you will notice these subtle shifts more quickly. The mind will become quieter, the heart lighter, and your home will begin to feel not just like a shelter from the world, but like a sanctuary where every object is a silent companion on your path to God. This is the reward of heeding the first of these warnings. Once you have recognized the influence of the first object and the way it weaves its quiet shadow into the fabric of your daily life, the question naturally arises, what shall take its place? In spiritual living, removal without replacement is seldom complete, for nature abhors a vacuum, and the energies of life will always move to fill what is empty. If we do not consciously choose what enters a newly cleared space, the old vibrations or others of similar kind may find their way back. Therefore, in removing an object that blocks divine energy, we must also plant in its stead something that invites the divine presence more fully into our home. Think of the moment you carry the object away as the closing of one chapter. You have released a burden, but now you are holding open the doorway for grace to walk in. This is the perfect time to choose something that reflects your highest aspirations, a symbol of peace, a portrait of a great master, a simple vase with fresh flowers, a small altar, or even an open, uncluttered space that radiates quiet beauty. The replacement need not be elaborate or costly. In fact, often the most potent objects are those that are simple, natural, and imbued with pure intention. A stone you picked up during a walk when your heart was filled with prayer. A cloth gifted in love by someone whose life radiates peace. A candle that you light only in moments of meditation. These can become living anchors for higher vibrations. When you bring such an uplifting object into the space, treat it with reverence. Before placing it, take a moment to hold it in your hands, close your eyes, and invite God's light to saturate it. Whisper a prayer that it become a vessel for divine blessing, not only for you, but for everyone who enters your home. This conscious infusion of intention transforms a mere physical thing into a spiritual companion. It will begin to radiate a subtle presence, almost like the fragrance of a flower, influencing the atmosphere in a way you and your guests may sense even without words. In this process, you will begin to notice a deeper transformation within yourself. The very act of choosing what is allowed to stay in your home becomes a form of meditation. You will look at your surroundings with new eyes, asking quietly, does this help me remember God, or does it distract me from Him? Does it uplift my spirit, or does it stir old restlessness? In answering these questions, you strengthen your own discrimination. Viveka, the sword of clarity that cuts through Maya's illusions. Many devotees have told me that after removing such a blocking object and consciously replacing it with something sattvic and uplifting. They experienced a sudden freshness in their meditations, as if the very air had been cleansed. Some reported that visitors to their home would pause, look around, and say, "It feels so peaceful here," even without knowing what had changed. This is the silent testimony of a space aligned with the soul's highest vibration. Beloved, remember, your home is not just a shelter for the body, it is a sanctuary for the soul. By removing what is out of harmony and consciously choosing what reflects the divine, you create a living temple where each object becomes an altar and each corner a silent prayer. In such a place, God's presence does not need to be summoned. It is already there, dwelling quietly, blessing everyone who enters. Now, beloved, let us turn our attention to the second object, perhaps even more subtle, yet equally potent in its influence, a presence in your home that invites restlessness, disharmony, or the slow erosion of peace. Whereas the first object carries a weight that depresses and drains, this second object acts almost like an open channel to energies that are not your own, energies that disrupt the flow of tranquility, and may even subtly pull your mind and heart toward worry, fear, or discord. It may be an item imbued with unresolved conflict, a gift kept out of obligation rather than love, or even a decorative piece that unconsciously reminds you of tension, greed, or attachment. To the untrained eye, it may appear harmless, even beautiful, yet to the sensitive spirit it hums with a vibration that is disharmonious, like a discordant note in an otherwise sweet melody. The principle here is one I have taught repeatedly: like attracts like. Everything in the cosmos resonates with a particular frequency, and your consciousness is constantly responding to and reflecting these vibrations. If your home contains an object whose energy is restless, agitated, or misaligned with your spiritual aspirations, it draws similar energies into your field. You may find that arguments arise more easily, that moods fluctuate for no apparent reason, or that even your own meditative efforts feel heavier and less fruitful. It is as if the very air around you is subtly charged against your peace, and yet it is not your fault, nor is it a moral failing. It is simply the law of vibration at work, silently shaping your inner and outer worlds. Identifying this object requires patience and sensitivity. Watch how you feel in each room, or even beside each item. Notice whether your mind becomes tense, whether your breath quickens subtly, or whether an invisible weight settles over you. Often, the first clue is a sense of unease that has no obvious cause. Pay attention also to recurring experiences. If certain pieces of your home seem to coincide with minor accidents, sleepless nights, or a constant undercurrent of distraction, these may be the silent indicators that the object's vibration is at odds with the higher currents of your life. Once identified, the removal of this object is an act of liberation. Do not approach it with guilt or resentment, but with discernment and reverence. Offer a brief prayer as you hold it, acknowledging the energy it has carried and sending it forward in peace. Whether you choose to give it away, recycle it, or otherwise release it, the key is conscious intention. You are creating a space in which only the energies aligned with God's presence can remain. And as with the first object, replacement is essential. Bring into that space something that uplifts, inspires, and harmonizes with your spiritual goals. Perhaps a symbol of divine light, a sacred text, a plant, or simply the openness of cleared space will suffice. The transformation begins subtly. After this removal, you may notice that your mind feels lighter, that conversations flow more gently, that the energy of your home feels warmer, more receptive, more welcoming. Over time, these shifts accumulate, and the home becomes not only a sanctuary of the body, but a sanctuary of the soul. Here, the energy is no longer fragmented or discordant. It is coherent, uplifting, and supportive of your spiritual journey. This is the reward of following these warnings: not fear, not superstition, but liberation and alignment. After the second object has been carefully identified, consciously removed, and replaced with something that harmonizes with the spirit, we arrive at a sacred threshold, the moment when the home begins to transform from a mere shelter into a living temple. The air itself feels different. It is lighter, clearer, as if the invisible currents that previously moved in restless, discordant patterns are now calm and ordered. You may notice that sunlight entering the windows seems warmer, more golden, or that the corners of the room seem to breathe along with you. This is no imagination. In the subtle dimension, the energies of all objects, intentions, and vibrations coalesce, and when the disruptive elements are removed, harmony naturally radiates. You have not forced this transformation. You have merely cleared the space and aligned it with higher principles. Visualize your home now as a sacred space, each room a hall and a temple of divine consciousness. Every object within it, chosen with awareness, placed with reverence, becomes a silent companion in your spiritual journey. The furniture, the books, the sacred symbols, even the simplest items are now imbued with intention, emitting vibrations that uplift, calm, and guide. In this environment, your mind settles more easily. Meditation deepens without effort. Your conversations flow with gentleness, and even your dreams become clearer and more infused with guidance. It is as though the home itself is participating in your spiritual practice, echoing your devotion and amplifying the presence of God throughout your life. Imagine the difference between a river flowing freely over smooth stones and one obstructed by debris. Before the removal of the two disruptive objects, your home was like that obstructed river energy, churning in confusion, subtle currents fighting one another, blessings partially blocked or diverted. Now, after the careful clearing and conscious replacement, the river flows unhindered. Light, peace, and abundance move through the spaces naturally, touching every corner of your life and every moment of your consciousness. Your home becomes a conduit for divine blessings, a tangible expression of inner purity and spiritual alignment. The beauty of this transformation is that it is both external and internal. As you witness the change in your surroundings, you will find a mirror reflected in your own consciousness. Your thoughts become calmer, your mood steadier, and your capacity for joy, creativity, and compassion expands. The home no longer merely houses your body, it nurtures your soul. It is no longer a place where restlessness accumulates, but a sanctuary where the presence of God can dwell freely, guiding you, protecting you, and illuminating your path. This is the ultimate teaching behind the warnings. It is not simply about removing physical items, it is about creating an environment that supports the ascension of the soul, a sacred landscape where the divine may move without obstruction. When approached with awareness, devotion, and intention, the simple acts of identifying, removing, and replacing these objects become profound spiritual practices, echoing Yogananda's wisdom that the outer environment is inseparable from the inner life. In this harmony, your home becomes not only a shelter but a living expression of grace, and in such a place, every breath, every thought, and every prayer resonates with the sacred vibrations of God's presence. As the home transforms into a living sanctuary, we now turn our attention to the poetic vision of what it truly means to dwell in such a space. A home as a temple, not of stone or wood alone, but of light, vibration, and devotion. Every breath taken within these walls becomes a prayer, every glance a meditation, every act a reflection of the soul's longing for God. In such a space, the ordinary is infused with sacredness, and even the smallest gestures, the placement of a flower on a windowsill, the careful alignment of a sacred book, the opening of a window to let fresh air and sunlight in, are magnified in their spiritual potency. Your home ceases to be merely a residence. It becomes a living altar, echoing your intentions, amplifying your prayers, and reflecting the purity of your consciousness back to you in luminous cycles. Imagine light moving through a newly cleared space. Sunbeams enter, unobstructed, touching surfaces that previously gathered shadows, bringing warmth and clarity to corners that had felt stagnant or heavy. The walls, now resonant with harmonized energy, seem to exhale gently, releasing lingering tensions and creating an invisible lattice of peace that permeates the home. The subtle fragrance of air, whether it is fresh from an open window or softened by the presence of plants, incense, or flowers, carries the vibration of calm and devotion. You can feel it even without a name, a sense that this is a place where the divine moves freely, where energies are uplifted, and where every room encourages the soul to rise above distraction, worry, and restlessness. Consider the transformation from within yourself. As the environment shifts, so too does your inner landscape. Meditation becomes easier, the mind settles more naturally, and the heart opens with less effort. Even mundane activities, cooking, cleaning, walking through the halls, take on a rhythm of reverence, each motion contributing to the spiritual harmony of the household. Guests who enter may feel it intuitively, often remarking on a sense of calm or freshness without knowing why. These are the subtle signs that the home has become a living temple, one where the vibrations of God's presence have been invited, recognized, and allowed to permeate everything. Yogananda emphasized that the purpose of such an environment is not merely comfort but transformation. The home, aligned with higher vibration, acts as a spiritual amplifier. Prayers spoken within it carry farther, meditations deepen, and blessings multiply. It becomes a protective cocoon, shielding the inhabitants from subtle disturbances and attracting energies that foster health, harmony, prosperity, and spiritual insight. This is not magic, nor is it superstition. It is the natural unfolding of divine law. The law of vibration operates constantly, shaping consciousness and experience. By clearing objects that obstruct this flow and consciously filling your space with purity and intention, you create the conditions in which grace can manifest openly. Beloved, understand that this poetic vision is both literal and symbolic. Your home is a mirror of your inner life. By cultivating the outer space with care, attention, and reverence, you are also cultivating the inner space of your consciousness. As the temple of your home is purified, so too is the temple of your soul. And in this dual sanctification, outer and inner, the divine can dwell most fully, guiding, nurturing, and illuminating every step of your journey. Let us now immerse ourselves in the living words of Paramahansa Yogananda regarding the subtle yet profound power of our surroundings. For in his teachings, he reveals that environment is not merely a backdrop to life, but a co-creator of consciousness itself. Yogananda explained that the vibrations of objects, images, and even the arrangement of space affect the subtle body, the mind, emotions, and life force, shaping the quality of our thoughts, moods, and spiritual receptivity. To live in a home where energies are scattered or heavy is to invite restlessness and distraction. To dwell in a space harmonized with the laws of vibration is to open the heart and mind to inspiration, divine guidance, and inner stillness. This understanding is not mystical speculation, it is the yogic science of the subtle, teaching that the world around you is alive with energy and that your home can either nourish or hinder the awakening of your soul. Imagine, if you will, walking into a room where every item radiates calm, every surface seems to breathe, and the very air carries the resonance of peace. This is the living temple Yogananda often described, a home that not only shelters the body but cultivates the spirit. Each object in such a space, whether it is a sacred image, a book of wisdom, or even a simple plant, is chosen consciously, imbued with intention, and maintained with reverence. The effect is cumulative, subtle at first, like the first light of dawn touching the horizon, gradually illuminating the entire landscape of life. In such a home, meditation deepens effortlessly, prayer feels more intimate, and the rhythms of daily life are suffused with a quiet grace that draws both the inhabitants and visitors into a higher vibration. Yogananda emphasized that the care of our environment is inseparable from the care of the inner self. A cluttered, discordant home reflects unaddressed thoughts, lingering emotional patterns, or unresolved karmic influences. By contrast, a purified, harmonious space mirrors a purified mind and a heart aligned with divine will. In this way, the removal of objects that block energy is not simply housekeeping. It is an act of spiritual purification, a tangible step toward inner clarity. As we consciously arrange our surroundings to support peace, devotion, and balance, we co-create with the divine, allowing our home to become a living instrument that amplifies prayer, meditation, and divine inspiration. Furthermore, Yogananda taught that such attentiveness to environment nurtures subtle perception. When the physical space aligns with higher vibration, the soul becomes more sensitive to divine guidance, the subtleties of intuition, and the gentle promptings of angels. Even small gestures, such as placing an object in sunlight, arranging sacred symbols with mindfulness, or simply leaving a space clear and open, influence the mind and heart profoundly. These acts, though external, are also internal. They train the consciousness to recognize and invite higher frequencies, preparing the soul to receive blessings that might otherwise be overlooked or blocked by disharmonious energy. Thus, the message is clear. A home is never neutral. It is a living, breathing field of vibration that interacts with your consciousness at every moment. By removing objects that carry lower vibrations and consciously filling your space with purity, light, and intention, you are actively participating in the creation of an environment that supports spiritual growth. Yogananda's words guide us to see that every act of cleaning, arranging, and blessing is itself a meditation, a prayer, and a declaration that the divine may dwell freely among us. Through such care, the home becomes a sacred vessel in which the energy of God can flow unimpeded, nurturing both body and soul in profound and lasting ways. Now, beloved, let us enter the final stage of this sacred practice, the call to presence, the act of blessing the home after the removal of the disruptive energies and the conscious placement of objects aligned with divine vibration. This is not merely a ritual or a symbolic gesture. It is the culmination of awareness, intention, and devotion, a moment in which the outer space and inner consciousness are synchronized in the recognition of God's presence. When you stand within the home you have purified, close your eyes, and breathe deeply. Feel that every surface, every corner, every object you have intentionally chosen is now resonating in harmony with the eternal. It is here, in this quiet communion, that the true blessing unfolds. Imagine holding your hands over a room and envisioning a luminous light descending from above, filling every space with the radiance of divine presence. This light touches not only the physical objects, but the invisible currents of energy, stabilizing and elevating the vibration throughout the home. The walls, the floor, the furniture, the sacred symbols all respond to this light, becoming conduits of peace, protection, and grace. As you move through each room in mindfulness, offer a silent invocation. May this space be purified. May it radiate peace, harmony, and divine love. May all who dwell here be blessed, protected, and guided toward the highest good. Speak it from the heart, slowly, deliberately, as if the words themselves were carrying the very essence of the divine into each corner. In these moments of blessing, let your attention also turn inward. Sense how your own energy has shifted as a result of the removals and replacements you have enacted. Notice the quiet settling of the mind, the lightness in the chest, the sense of calm that may rise even amidst the ordinary sounds of daily life. The home is now not only a reflection of inner transformation, but an active participant in the ongoing evolution of your consciousness. Your meditation, your prayer, your attention, these have coalesced with the vibration of the purified home, and together they form a dynamic field of spiritual energy that sustains and protects you. Pause here for a few deep breaths, allowing the energy to settle fully. Visualize the divine light expanding beyond the walls of your home, touching the environment around it, extending protection to the lives and consciousness of all who enter. Imagine this light connecting with the energies of the universe, weaving your dwelling into the sacred fabric of creation. In this practice, you are not only blessing your own life, but contributing to a larger network of divine harmony. This is the true power of conscious, devotional care for the home, the recognition that every act, every object, every word has a resonance that reaches far beyond what the eye can see. Finally, give thanks. Gratitude is the seal of divine interaction, the acknowledgement that God has heard, that the home is now a sanctuary, and that your efforts are aligned with cosmic law. Offer a silent thank you from the depth of your heart, feeling the resonance of that gratitude amplify the blessing you have invoked. This is the culmination of the practice, a home cleansed and harmonized, a consciousness elevated, and a heart open to receive the continuous flow of divine grace. In such a space, you may notice subtle changes, immediately a sense of lightness, peace, and clarity, and over time, a more profound transformation that touches every aspect of life within and around you. As you remain in this sacred moment of blessing, allow yourself to feel the subtle currents of energy that now move freely throughout your home. The invisible threads of vibration, once tangled and heavy, have been untied and smoothed, and in their stead, the radiant flow of divine light courses effortlessly through every corner. Notice how even the smallest objects, the ones you may have chosen with care, begin to hum with a presence that is not simply imagined, but felt in the stillness of your awareness. This is the unmistakable sign of alignment. When your inner consciousness and the outer environment resonate in harmony, the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary, and the home becomes not merely a place to live, but a living, breathing sanctuary of grace. In this luminous state, the act of blessing becomes an intimate dialogue between you and the infinite. Each silent word, each deliberate breath, is a current carrying intention into the subtle planes, where the divine presence gathers and amplifies it. Visualize these currents spiraling gently around the rooms, entering every drawer, corner, and nook, touching each surface with purity and peace. As you move through the home, let your attention be fully aware of this sacred flow, imagining it sweeping away lingering shadows, past disturbances, or stagnant energies, leaving only the light of God's presence in every space. The very walls, floors, and objects resonate now, not with the residual vibrations of past worry or discord, but with the elevated frequency of divine harmony. Take a moment to feel the effect upon your own energy. In the process of clearing, replacing, and blessing, your consciousness has been recalibrated. You may notice a lightness in your chest, a clarity in your thoughts, and a subtle expansion in your awareness. This is not an illusion. It is the natural consequence of harmonizing the external and internal environment, aligning the body, mind, and home with the universal currents of energy. Every meditation you undertake in this space, every prayer whispered, every step you take, will now be conducted in an atmosphere charged with the resonance of higher vibration. Your spiritual practice, previously hindered by unseen discord, is now magnified by the purity and intentionality of the environment. As this awareness deepens, you may sense an almost tangible presence, the quiet but powerful feeling that unseen companions are near. Angels, guides, and the subtle forces of the universe respond to the clarity and devotion you have cultivated. The act of blessing your home has not only altered the physical space, but has awakened a field of consciousness that extends beyond the walls themselves, touching all who enter, influencing all energies nearby, and creating a sanctuary where divine grace can flow uninterrupted. In this way, your home becomes a focal point of spiritual energy, a beacon radiating calm, clarity, and protection. Finally, understand that this is not a one-time act, but the beginning of a living practice. The blessings invoked, the vibrations purified, and the alignment achieved are sustained through awareness, care, and reverence. Each day as you enter your home, take a conscious moment to acknowledge its sacredness. Feel gratitude for the light that now fills it. Honor the objects that support your spiritual path, and remain vigilant to maintain harmony. In doing so, you transform not only the home itself, but also your relationship to life, your consciousness, and the unfolding of God's plan in your world. As you continue to dwell in the awareness of your newly harmonized space, it is essential to understand the deeper spiritual significance of maintaining this sanctity. A home that has been consciously cleared and blessed is not merely a static object. It is a living extension of your consciousness, a reflection of the clarity and devotion cultivated within your own mind and heart. Every thought, every action, every breath that occurs within these walls interacts with the energies you have set into motion. Just as the sun's rays illuminate the earth and animate life, so too does the vibration of your attention and devotion infuse the home with spiritual life. It becomes a dynamic, responsive field where the presence of the divine is felt not occasionally, but as a continuous, nurturing flow that touches every aspect of your experience. Imagine, beloved, that each room in your home is a cell within a larger organism of consciousness. If even a single cell is burdened with discordant energy, it affects the entire body, subtly influencing moods, thoughts, and actions. When you remove objects that block divine energy, when you replace them with items that radiate purity and intention, and when you bless the entire space, you are essentially performing a sacred operation on this living organism, restoring its natural harmony and allowing it to function optimally. The effects are subtle at first, but over time, they accumulate, leading to a home that not only shelters, but actively nurtures the spiritual evolution of all who dwell within it. This process also mirrors the inner journey of the soul. As you clear your outer environment, you are prompted to clear the inner environment of the mind and heart. Old resentments, lingering anxieties, and subconscious attachments are reflected in the physical space. And as you consciously remove and replace objects with sacred intent, the mind begins to mirror this clarity. Meditation becomes deeper, prayer more focused, and even daily interactions carry a newfound grace. The home becomes a feedback loop of spiritual growth. As the space lifts in vibration, so does the consciousness of those who inhabit it, and as their consciousness rises, it further elevates the space. Yogananda taught that the subtle and the physical are intertwined, that what is done in one dimension inevitably influences the other. Thus, blessing and purifying your home is not merely about aesthetics or comfort, it is a profound act of aligning your entire life with the currents of divine law. It is a declaration that you are willing to co-create with the unseen forces, to welcome God's presence actively into the very fabric of your daily existence. When approached with reverence and mindfulness, this act becomes a continual practice of devotion, one that transforms the ordinary rhythm of domestic life into a living, breathing prayer, resonating with peace, clarity, and spiritual illumination. As you walk through each room, observe how the energies now respond. The air may feel lighter, the light brighter, and even the quietest corners may seem to hum with presence. Your steps are no longer merely functional. They are part of a sacred dance with the divine. Every movement, every glance, every inhalation participates in the ongoing blessing you have invoked. In this environment, your home becomes not simply a physical shelter, but a sanctuary where the soul may rest, grow, and commune with God unhindered. This is the fruition of the careful work of removing what blocks and inviting what uplifts. It is a living testament to the truth that when we align the outer with the inner, the divine responds, filling both space and spirit with eternal light. As the sanctuary of your home is established through the conscious removal of obstructive energies and the infusion of divine vibration, we now approach the culmination of this sacred practice, the direct invocation of God's presence through blessing. This step is both a confirmation of your effort and a bridge between the purified space and the ongoing flow of grace that will permeate it continuously. To bless your home is to consciously acknowledge that it is no longer merely a collection of walls, furniture, and objects, but a living vessel for the energy of the divine. Each breath you take, each word you whisper, becomes a sacred current that travels through the subtle atmosphere, touching every corner, infusing every object with light, and anchoring the vibration of peace, protection, and prosperity throughout your dwelling. Begin this practice by standing or sitting quietly at the center of your home. Close your eyes and breathe deeply, allowing the mind to settle and the heart to open. Visualize a brilliant, golden light descending from above, not as a distant phenomenon, but as an intimate, tangible presence that fills the very air you breathe. Let this light move through the walls, across the floors, and into every object, carrying with it the infinite love and protection of God. Feel as though the light penetrates not only the physical structures, but also the subtle energies, the spaces between atoms, and the unseen currents that have shaped the vibrations of your home for decades. This visualization is not a mere exercise. It is the conscious engagement of your consciousness with divine power, a declaration that this place is now aligned with the highest energies of creation. As you mentally or verbally offer your blessing, speak words of intention with clarity and devotion. May this home be filled with divine light and love. May all who dwell here be protected, nourished, and guided toward their highest good. May every object, every corner, and every breath resonate with the vibration of God's peace. Speak these words slowly, deliberately, and with the full awareness that the divine hears and responds not to the speed or eloquence of your speech, but to the sincerity and vibration behind it. Allow your heart to feel the truth of what you are invoking. Do not rush. Each word should sink into the very fabric of the space, anchoring the blessing as an invisible lattice of grace that will continue to radiate long after the act of blessing is complete. Pause now and feel the home respond. Sense the subtle shift, the lightness, the expansion of energy, the quiet hum that seems to move through walls and furniture, knitting everything into a harmonious whole. Notice your own inner state, how your chest may feel open, your thoughts more serene, your heart more aligned with God's love. This is the tangible reward of intentional blessing. The space becomes a living participant in your spiritual journey, and your consciousness is elevated by the harmonization of outer and inner energies. The act is both literal and symbolic. By blessing the home, you bless your own consciousness, and by blessing your consciousness, you reinforce the sanctity of the space around you. Finally, allow this moment to conclude in gratitude. Feel deep within your heart the awareness that God has heard, that divine presence now dwells freely, and that the home will continue to radiate peace, protection, and abundance. Acknowledge the sacredness of what has been done, and let a quiet sense of joy and reverence settle over the space. Know that this is not a one-time event, but the beginning of a continuous practice. Every thought, every action, and every breath you take in this purified environment now carries the imprint of divine blessing. Your home has become a living temple, a sanctuary where the soul, body, and mind are supported, guided, and nurtured, and where the divine may dwell without obstruction, illuminating every corner with eternal light and love. Now, beloved, as we enter the final moments of this sacred guidance, let us pause in the silent communion of presence, allowing the fullness of God's light to settle completely into every corner of the home and into every cell of your being. This is the point where the physical act of cleaning, clearing, and replacing objects intersects seamlessly with the higher act of consciousness, where your awareness becomes a living channel through which divine energy flows freely. As you breathe, feel the subtle currents of vibration moving in perfect harmony, knitting together the outer and inner dimensions of your life into a tapestry of balance, peace, and divine order. In this stillness, you are not only a witness to transformation, you are an active participant in the co-creation of a sacred environment that nourishes your soul every moment you dwell within it. Envision the home as a radiant temple of light, each room a hall of devotion, each object a silent teacher, each corner infused with the presence of God. Even the air feels luminous, vibrating softly with clarity and serenity. This is the home after which all other spaces are measured, a sanctuary where the energies of the past have been released, where subtle disharmonies have been neutralized, and where the frequency of divine love permeates everything. In this sacred setting, your meditations deepen effortlessly, prayers resonate with greater potency, and the quiet, subtle guidance of the unseen world becomes more palpable. You may feel the gentle presence of angels, or the whisper of intuitive insight guiding your thoughts, your decisions, and even the flow of your daily activities. As you remain in this state of attunement, notice the interplay between your inner consciousness and the external environment. The walls, the floors, the sacred objects, everything responds to your intention and devotion. This reciprocity is the living law of vibration. What you invest in space, thought, and emotion returns amplified, blessing you in ways both seen and unseen. Each breath you take nourishes the temple you have created, and each thought aligned with love and purity reinforces the divine architecture of your home. You are no longer merely living in a place. You are dwelling within a sacred field where every vibration sings the song of God's presence, where every corner reflects the serenity and grace of aligned consciousness. Pause now and extend this blessing beyond the physical boundaries of the home. Imagine the light radiating outward, touching the environment around you, your neighborhood, and even those who may enter your space. Your intentional blessing acts like a seed, planting subtle harmonies that ripple through unseen currents, touching lives, uplifting energies, and creating a sanctuary that benefits all who encounter it. In this way, your devotion multiplies, spreading beyond what the eye can see, yet remaining grounded in the concrete space you have transformed with care and reverence. Finally, settle into gratitude. Feel the profound joy that arises from knowing your home has become a living sanctuary, that your consciousness is aligned with divine law, and that your actions have co-created a space in which God may dwell freely. Let the heart swell with awareness that you have not merely cleared objects, but you have also aligned yourself with the subtle currents of creation, inviting continuous flow, protection, and blessing. In this quiet communion, every breath, every thought, every step becomes an offering, and your home is no longer a neutral backdrop to life. It is now a living, breathing temple, radiating light, harmony, and the eternal presence of God. And now, beloved, let us complete this sacred journey with the final invocation, the guided blessing that unites your intention, your awareness, and your home into one coherent field of divine presence. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, feel the home itself responding to your attention. Each object, each surface, each space is ready to receive the vibration of God's light. Picture a soft golden radiance descending from above, filling the ceiling and walls, pooling around your feet, wrapping every corner of your rooms in a subtle, shimmering cloak of divine protection. Feel it penetrate not just the physical environment, but the subtle dimensions where thought, emotion, and memory reside. This light is alive. It moves. It breathes. It responds to the intensity of your devotion, and it flows with perfect harmony through every element of the space. As you hold this vision, speak silently or aloud a prayer of blessing in words that arise naturally from your heart. May this home be filled with God's light. May every object and every corner radiate peace, harmony, and divine love. May all who dwell here or enter here be uplifted, guided, and protected. May this space become a sanctuary where the soul, mind, and heart are nourished and aligned with the eternal presence of God. Repeat these words with intention, letting each syllable vibrate with sincerity, letting your consciousness flow into the room as if your very being were the source of the radiance itself. This is not a ritual of formality. It is a living act of devotion, an energetic sealing that ensures the sacredness of the environment is anchored in both the seen and unseen dimensions. Pause for a few moments of silence after your invocation. Let the vibrations settle. Feel them as currents moving through the home, weaving together the energies of your family, yourself, and all the objects around you into a coherent field of divine presence. Notice how your own body and mind feel lighter, more aligned, more receptive to peace and clarity. This stillness is not passive. It is a profound interaction, a dialogue between your soul and the consciousness of the space, now harmonized with God's will. Every breath during this pause extends the blessing, amplifying its effect, allowing the subtle layers of vibration to organize and elevate into a resonance of divine grace. Finally, take a moment to offer gratitude. Feel the fullness of appreciation in your heart for the presence of God, for the opportunity to consciously align your environment, and for the subtle energies that have responded to your care. Gratitude is the seal of spiritual law. It completes the cycle of giving and receiving, of intention and response. As you express thanks, know that this practice does not end with this moment. The blessing you have invoked continues to flow through the home and through your consciousness, guiding, protecting, and elevating every moment that follows. You have not only transformed your space, but deepened your connection to the divine, creating a sacred home that resonates with eternal light, love, and peace. As you remain in this luminous stillness, beloved, feel how the energies of your home have become inseparable from the energies of your own consciousness. This is the profound teaching that Paramahansa Yogananda so often emphasized. The outer environment is not merely a backdrop to spiritual life, but an extension of the inner temple of the soul. Each breath you take now carries with it a resonance that touches the walls, the objects, the floor, and the air, weaving your consciousness into a unified field with the sacred vibration of the space. In this harmony, prayer, meditation, and ordinary activity alike become channels through which divine energy can flow uninterrupted. Every movement in your home, every step, every gesture, every breath is now infused with consciousness aligned to God. Notice how subtle yet transformative this alignment is. The mind, previously distracted by the weight of invisible, discordant currents, now rests more easily. Thoughts no longer spiral aimlessly. They move with clarity and focus, attuned to higher truths. Emotions, once stirred by the hidden residue of unbalanced energies, settle into serenity and equilibrium. Even the physical body, attuned as it is to the subtle vibrations around it, feels lighter, freer, as if each cell has been bathed in the quiet radiance of divine presence. The home, in turn, responds. The very air carries a calmness. The spaces seem to expand with light, and a soft, continuous undercurrent of peace hums quietly through every corner. This is the living, breathing result of intentional purification, blessing, and harmonization, a tangible manifestation of invisible spiritual law. Furthermore, understand that the subtle effects of this practice do not remain isolated to the immediate environment. The blessings and vibrations you have invited into your home extend outward, influencing your family, guests, and even the energy of the surrounding neighborhood. Divine law is impartial and expansive. The harmony you cultivate in one sacred space reverberates far beyond the walls, touching consciousness in ways often unseen but deeply felt. Angels, guides, and divine forces, drawn to the refined vibration of the purified home, become increasingly present, walking silently among the rooms, watching, protecting, and guiding the hearts and minds of all who dwell within. The home becomes a nexus of spiritual protection and guidance, where divine attention is concentrated and freely available. Finally, beloved, know that this transformation is not static but dynamic. The home will continue to respond to your consciousness. The higher your attention and devotion, the more luminous the space becomes. The act of removing what blocks divine energy and replacing it with objects chosen in consciousness is merely the beginning of an ongoing relationship between the inner and outer worlds. Every day, as you breathe, speak, meditate, or move through the rooms, you participate in the living energy of this sacred space, amplifying its blessing and harmonizing it further. The home is no longer simply a dwelling. It is a sanctuary of light, a living testament to your devotion, and a continual source of divine inspiration, peace, and protection for your soul. Now, as we approach the conclusion of this sacred guidance, let us dwell together in the awareness that the home you have purified, blessed, and harmonized is more than a collection of objects and walls. It is a living extension of the divine itself. Every room, every corner, every object that now remains carries not only its own vibration, but also the imprint of your consciousness, your attention, and your devotion. This union of inner intention and outer environment creates a dynamic field of spiritual energy, where the subtle and the material converge, where the mundane becomes sacred, and where the divine presence can move freely, unobstructed by the obstacles of lower vibration. In this space, even ordinary daily acts, walking through the rooms, cooking a meal, reading, or resting become infused with the resonance of holiness. Each movement a silent prayer, and each breath a meditation. Imagine now that the home itself is alive with the quiet hum of grace. The air vibrates with the energy of alignment. The light that enters through the windows seems more luminous, touching surfaces with a gentle glow. The furniture, objects, and sacred symbols resonate subtly with the intention you have invested in them. This is not imagination. Beloved, it is the law of vibration at work, and you have set it in motion through your awareness, your choices, and your devotion. Each corner that was once shadowed by discord or heaviness now radiates peace. The floors, the walls, even the empty spaces carry a quiet sanctity, reinforcing the spiritual practices of those who dwell within. And as you move through this home, you will sense a profound shift not only in the environment, but within yourself, as your consciousness resonates with the elevated frequencies you have created. Furthermore, understand that this blessing and alignment extend beyond the immediate physical environment. The energy of your home, now harmonized, becomes a beacon of light and protection that radiates outward, subtly influencing the vibrational field of the neighborhood, touching visitors, and even stabilizing the subtle currents of energy around you. The divine, recognizing the harmony you have cultivated, flows more freely into your life, guiding, supporting, and uplifting the hearts and minds of all who enter. Angels and spiritual guardians, drawn to the purity of this space, may now move unseen, providing protection, insight, and subtle guidance, ensuring that the home functions not only as a shelter of the body, but as a sanctuary of the soul. In the practice of conscious blessing, the act is never complete. It is a continuous cycle of awareness, attention, and devotion. Each day, As you inhabit this purified space, breathe consciously, speak with intention, meditate, and offer prayers. You reinforce the field of divine presence. Every act of care, every moment of mindful attention, further harmonizes the energies, deepening the sense of sanctity and the tangible presence of God. Your home is no longer simply a dwelling, it is a living temple, a dynamic expression of your devotion, and a sanctuary in which the soul, mind, and heart can flourish in the fullness of divine light and protection. In this space, you are not only safe but elevated, not only nurtured but inspired, and not only present but deeply aligned with the eternal currents of God's love. As we conclude this sacred practice, beloved, let us pause to integrate the full awareness of what has been accomplished and to offer a final blessing that solidifies the alignment of your home, your consciousness, and the divine presence that now permeates every corner. Stand or sit in stillness within the central heart of your home and feel the entirety of the space around you as if it were alive with its own breath. Sense the subtle currents of energy, the vibrations of your attention, the purified resonance of objects and air, and allow your own consciousness to expand outward, merging with the light that now fills every wall, floor, and ceiling. In this moment, understand that the act of blessing is not a ritual confined to words, but a living expression of your devotion, a conscious alignment of intention, thought, and energy that creates a sanctuary where God may dwell freely and without obstruction. Now, imagine the presence of angels and guides quietly approaching, drawn by the clarity, purity, and devotion of the space. They do not arrive with fanfare or spectacle. They arrive as currents of light, as gentle warmth, as a subtle harmony that fills the heart with reassurance, protection, and guidance. Visualize these beings moving through every room, resting in every corner, and radiating a quiet vigilance over all who live, work, and rest within this sacred environment. Their presence is not limited to physical perception. It is a vibrational truth that can be felt through the subtle senses, through the soft deepening of breath, the stilling of thoughts, and the sense of expansive calm that seems to saturate the very atmosphere. Allow yourself to feel the immensity of their care, the constancy of their attention, and the tenderness with which they uphold the space you have sanctified. As you extend your consciousness in this way, speak the final blessing aloud or silently, letting each word flow with deliberate intention and heartfelt devotion. May this home remain a sanctuary of divine light. May peace, harmony, and love saturate every object, every corner, and every breath within. May all who enter here be uplifted, guided, and protected. May God's presence dwell uninterrupted, blessing all who live, work, and rest in this space. May the energy of this home support the spiritual growth, clarity, and joy of every soul within it. Repeat these words slowly, feeling the vibration of your heart infuse them with power, and imagine them radiating outward in concentric circles, extending protection, guidance, and divine grace into every inch of your home. Finally, beloved, close this practice with gratitude. Feel the profound awareness that you have co-created a living sanctuary, that the energies of your home now resonate with alignment, and that your consciousness has been elevated alongside the space you inhabit. Recognize that this is not a temporary effect, but a continuous relationship between you, your home, and the divine, one that will grow stronger as long as you maintain mindfulness, devotion, and reverence. Each breath you take, each step you move through this blessed environment carries the imprint of this sacred work, reinforcing the home as a sanctuary of light, a temple of peace, and a channel for ongoing grace, protection, and divine inspiration. In this awareness, know that your home has become more than a dwelling. It is now a living testament to your devotion, a place where body, mind, and spirit are nurtured, and where the presence of God may flourish eternally. Beloved, as we now dwell in the culmination of this sacred practice, let us allow the awareness of continuity to settle deeply within us. The blessings you have invoked, the vibrations you have purified, and the divine presence you have welcomed into your home do not remain static. They continue to move, evolve, and influence every moment that follows. Just as the morning sun rises daily, spreading light through the world, The spiritual energy cultivated through this intentional work radiates continuously, not only affecting your immediate surroundings, but also extending outward into the lives of all who enter your sacred space. This is the profound truth Yogananda revealed. The effects of consciousness and intention are dynamic, extending beyond what is immediately visible, touching the subtle currents of the unseen realms, and shaping the quality of life in ways that are both tangible and ethereal. Feel now, if you can, the subtle harmonies resonating throughout the rooms, the gentle flow of light threading through every corner, every surface, and every object that remains. Sense the air vibrating softly with divine presence, as if each molecule has been touched by grace. This is not imagination. It is the natural unfolding of the law of vibration, a principle that teaches that every energy you cultivate through conscious intention will continue to act upon the environment and your consciousness long after the initial act. The home is now a living organism of energy, responding to your devotion, reflecting your alignment, and sustaining the subtle balance of mind, heart, and spirit. Extend this awareness further, beloved, to the people within your home, whether they be family, guests, or even those who may pass through briefly. Imagine that every soul is enveloped by the subtle radiance that now fills the space. Each thought, each intention, each breath they take resonates in harmony with the purified energy. Here, the home acts not merely as a shelter, but as a teacher, a guide, and a sanctuary of subtle protection, continually supporting the inhabitants in their spiritual practice and in their capacity to maintain peace, clarity, and divine alignment throughout their day. Let us also consider the continuity of personal practice within this space. The conscious attention, devotion, and prayer that initiated this transformation must now be reinforced through mindful living. Every step, every movement, every intentional act contributes to the ongoing resonance of the home. A simple gesture, lighting a candle, offering a prayer, arranging a sacred object, or breathing with awareness sustains and amplifies the energy. Over time, these acts create a powerful synergy. The environment nourishes the consciousness, and the consciousness, in turn, maintains and elevates the environment. This cyclical interaction is the living embodiment of Yogananda's teaching that the outer and inner worlds are inseparable, and that the practice of spiritual care extends beyond meditation into the very rhythm of daily life. Finally, rest in the assurance, beloved, that your home, now aligned, continues to act as a living temple, a sanctuary of divine light. It is a sacred field in which the soul can flourish, in which grace can flow unimpeded, and in which every thought, breath, and action is supported by higher vibrations. In this space, your spiritual practices deepen naturally, your awareness expands, and the presence of God, quiet, subtle, unwavering, resides fully, guiding, protecting, and illuminating every moment. You are no longer merely inhabiting a house. You are dwelling within a sanctuary of divine alignment, a living testament to the sacred interplay between conscious intention, environment, and the eternal presence of God. And now, beloved, as we draw to the close of this sacred teaching, let us reflect upon the profound unity of the inner and outer, the visible and invisible, the material and spiritual that you have co-created within your home. Every action you have taken, the careful removal of objects whose vibrations block the flow of divine energy, the conscious replacement of those objects with symbols of purity and reverence, and the blessing of each room with mindful intention has formed a tapestry of alignment that extends far beyond the physical walls. Your consciousness, now attuned to this environment, resonates with the same vibrations you have invited into the space, creating a feedback loop in which inner peace and outer harmony reinforce each other continuously. This is the living law that Yogananda revealed. When mind, heart, and environment are synchronized with divine intention, the home ceases to be a passive shelter and becomes an active participant in the unfolding of your spiritual evolution. Picture this, beloved. The sunlight streams into the rooms, not merely illuminating physical objects, but energizing the space with clarity and warmth. Every corner, every surface, every object responds to the subtle currents of your intention, radiating peace, protection, and divine love. The air itself seems to vibrate with calmness, and even the faintest movement, whether the soft rustle of a curtain, the turning of a page, or the gentle footfall across the floor, becomes infused with the rhythm of divine grace. The home has been transformed into a living sanctuary where the energies of God flow freely and where every breath you take harmonizes with the stillness and radiance that now pervades the space. In this sanctified environment, the effects ripple outward in ways that are both subtle and profound. Guests who enter may feel a sense of calm or upliftment without understanding why, their hearts and minds subtly influenced by the elevated vibrations. Your own consciousness is strengthened, and your daily practices, meditation, prayer, study, or simple presence are magnified by the harmonious field you have cultivated. The angels and guides that have always been near now move more freely within this energetic structure, their presence more tangible, their guidance more perceptible. The home has become a conduit, a channel through which divine energy can flow uninterrupted, blessing not only those who dwell within, but also all who enter or pass through the space. Let this also serve as a reminder that the sacredness of the home is sustained through continual mindfulness and devotion. It is not enough to remove the blockages and perform the blessing once. The spiritual resonance you have created must be nurtured through ongoing awareness. Every thought, every word, every act contributes to maintaining the harmony of the space. Simple rituals, lighting a candle with intention, offering a short prayer upon entering a room, meditating in the presence of objects chosen in consciousness, reinforce the sacred vibrations and keep the home aligned with divine purpose. By engaging in these practices, you ensure that the home remains a sanctuary, a living temple where God's presence dwells perpetually. Finally, rest in the deep assurance that your efforts have borne fruit. Your home is no longer a neutral space. It is a living witness to your devotion, a sanctuary that protects, nurtures, and elevates your consciousness. Every breath, every step, every thought within this blessed environment is supported by the subtle energies you have aligned. In this sacred harmony, you are not merely living, you are participating in the divine flow, co-creating a home that radiates peace, clarity, and grace. Here, the law of vibration, the teachings of Yogananda, and the blessings of God converge, producing a space where body, mind, and soul are held in perfect equilibrium, and where the divine may dwell without obstruction, eternally illuminating every corner with love, light, and spiritual presence. Beloved, now we arrive at the culmination of this sacred practice, the call to presence and the home blessing. This is the moment when all your conscious effort, all the care you have taken in clearing and harmonizing your environment, and all the devotion you have poured into this space converge into a dynamic field of divine light. Stand or sit quietly in the center of your home, close your eyes, and take a deep, conscious breath. Feel your body, your heart, and your mind aligning with the vibration you have cultivated in your surroundings. As you inhale, draw in the subtle energy of the purified space. As you exhale, release any remaining residue of tension, fear, or distraction. With each breath, sense that your home and your consciousness are merging in a single, radiant resonance. Now visualize the light of God descending from the infinite into your dwelling. See it first touching the ceiling, then moving gently down the walls, filling the rooms with a luminous presence that is both tangible and serene. Picture the floors absorbing this light and reflecting it upward, while every object in the home, every chair, table, book, plant, and sacred symbol radiates with this divine vibration. Allow yourself to feel the subtle currents of energy moving freely, touching every corner, harmonizing every shadow, and establishing a field of calm, protection, and divine presence. This light is not static. It is alive, flowing in currents that interact with your awareness, amplifying the purity, peace, and blessings that now inhabit the home. With this vision in mind, speak a blessing aloud or silently from your heart. May this home be filled with God's eternal light. May every corner, every object, and every breath within these walls resonate with peace, clarity, and divine love. May all who dwell here or enter here be uplifted, guided, and protected. May the presence of God permeate this sanctuary continuously, blessing body, mind, and spirit. May the energies here be aligned with the highest vibration, and may every act performed within this space serve the divine purpose. Repeat these words with deliberate attention, feeling each syllable infuse the space with the intention behind it. The power of this blessing does not come from the length or complexity of the words, but from the sincerity, devotion, and consciousness with which they are offered. After speaking, sit or stand in silence for a few moments, allowing the vibrations to settle fully throughout the home. Feel how your own consciousness has merged with the energy of the space, how your presence amplifies the blessing, and how the home itself now participates in your spiritual practice. Sense the subtle guidance of angels, the gentle protection of divine forces, and the quiet assurance that all who inhabit this home are embraced by the light and grace you have invoked. Every breath you take, every step you make, every thought you cultivate within these walls will now resonate with the sanctity and purity of this moment. Finally, close this practice with gratitude. Offer thanks to God for hearing your invocation, for dwelling within the space you have consecrated, and for the blessings that are now flowing unobstructed. Feel the deep, sustaining joy that comes from knowing your home has become a living temple, a sanctuary where peace, harmony, and divine energy flow freely, supporting your spiritual growth and nurturing your soul. This is the culmination of mindful intention, conscious action, and devotion. The completion of a practice that transforms a simple dwelling into a sacred abode, where God's presence is tangible, enduring, and profoundly nourishing.